In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Why would those votes, we don't know what they're going to be, but why would the mail-in votes, the later votes, break for Rahman, possibly? Because that is the pattern in California with this system. I mean, we've seen this now probably for about a decade out there.
Definitely worth checking into.
Those votes that get tabulated after Election Day, they tend to be heavily Democratic.
Who gives a crap? I don't care.
On election night, we've had cases, a number of them, where the Republican candidate is ahead at the end of election night, and then it's a process over days, sometimes even weeks in these key congressional races. The Democrats get closer and closer and closer and end up pulling ahead.
Bingo.
You are fake news.
That's not even cool. Like, why they do that?
Very fake news.
Albino arrest. LOL.
Correct.
Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
I'm about to ride the D.
Wow.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now. Skag-free, whoever he is.
I'm impressed with the duct tape.
In 5, 4, 3. I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Sunday, June 7th, 2026. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight in his usual Sunday seat is highly regarded author Matt Palumbo. Welcome back.
Good to be back,
partner.
Great guest tonight. Jason Rantz is a longtime Seattle radio host. This week we talked to him about really just the state of Seattle, how the new mayor is doing, what's going on with crime and policing. We'll get into that in the second half of the show. Otherwise, in the news for discussion this evening, the prosecution has rested its case at the Karmelo Anthony trial north of Dallas. Recall this is the case of the black student stabbing the white student to death, of course, at the high school track meet last spring. Doesn't look like there's going to be a great self-defense case for Karmelo coming up when the defense makes its case, I presume this week. But Matt, you were predicting before live, there's no way that Karmelo Anthony is going to get away with this, right? It would seem not, but stand by. We'll see where this goes.
Right. Well, obviously it comes down to, will one juror dissent, but they could just retry the case. I know one of the talking points that we're going to hear after he's found guilty, hopefully, is that, well, there was no black people on the jury, so blah, 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 racial bias. Anyone who knows anything about juror bias knows that you actually reduce jury bias by having fewer black people on the jury. And it's an unfortunate reality that most people are tribal in that regard, but the reason there are no black jurors is because they all disqualified themselves. Each and every one of them said, "I will not convict a black person." If they were smart, they didn't want him to go to jail, or at least wanted to delay the inevitable, they would have just said, "No, I can be impartial," and they could not think to do that, I guess.
There were plenty of demonstrations of tribalism outside the courthouse, which we will get into, because that was the other show, was the pro and anti Karmelo demonstrations going on. We'll get into that. Graham Platner's scandals deepen ahead of Tuesday's main primary. His explanations aren't getting any better. We'll check in with that story as well. The SAVE Act to prevent non-citizens from voting fails in the Senate due to 4 Republican defections. Matt will carry us through that story. Later in the show, we're going to talk about the viral scandal story of the week. A YouTuber couple aborts their baby based on test results showing the baby likely has Down syndrome, and then they are heavily criticized, and they play the victim in response to that backlash. We'll check in on that story. Plus, of course, we have Hoax Hate to close. Before we get into all of that, we got to say hello to our friendly listener-owned business for the evening. That's our friends at Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing. Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing makes high-quality, handmade premium hardwood cutting boards, charcuterie boards, serving trays, and more, all of which are great gift options or the perfect piece to class up your kitchen or anywhere else in your home. Blake at Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing made me a cutting board engraved with my very own channel logo, and it looks amazing. It's been a part of our family kitchen for a long time now. It has not aged a bit. And in addition to the quality, that's the best part about Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing's products. They are fully customizable, not just in materials, but in engravings too. So if you'd like to personalize a gift like that one, that can be arranged. Or if you have any other custom hardwood project in mind, no matter how big or how small, Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing can make that a reality for you. Just get in touch at kineowood.com. All Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing products are made in Colorado from premium domestic hardwood sources. Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing is the absolute highest quality woodworking that will last you forever. The listeners of this show get 10% off all Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing products and services using promo code MATT10 at checkout. That's promo code MATT10 for 10% off everything at kineowood.com, KINEOWOOD.com, promo code MATT10 at checkout. Find all the information on all our special offers at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners, for listeners. Okay. Now, I can't remember if we discussed, I guess not, because this is our first Pride Month show, Matt.
Together.
So it must have been, right. So happy Pride.
Thank you so much. We're both gay according to the chat, so it's only appropriate.
Guilty as charged, I guess. There's no defense I could make at this point.
No way.
The hecklers and the mob have the final say. But it must have been Wednesday that it seemed like there was a little bit of a Pride Month resurgence this month, or this year rather. Like corporations in recent years seemed like they finally had enough. They got the message, or however many dollars could have been squeezed out of the rainbow capitalism were squeezed out. And it seemed like Pride Month had kind of, I was going to say take a back seat, but that sounds kind of gay. It seems like it slowed down a little bit. Pride was not as in your face as it has been in recent years. Maybe not though. Or to the Wednesday discussion, maybe it has had a resurgence. Whatever's going on, HelloFresh is entering some truly grotesque territory. I would say new, but it's not entirely new. They did not do the traditional rainbow-colored profile picture. I mean, they did that, but that was not the full extent of their social media posting. Usually you just get some post about being your generic, authentic self, please buy our product, that kind of thing. HelloFresh is actually now actively encouraging and perhaps facilitating gay anal sex.
I want some butts!
Even the Castro in San Francisco is blushing a little bit in response to this post. Now, HelloFresh, I have previously had a HelloFresh subscription. I don't have it anymore. Our family doesn't because it was just too expensive. The meal prep was fine, but if people don't know what HelloFresh is, you order meal kits. It's all the ingredients for the meal. They ship it to your house, and then you prepare the meal. So if you want to cook at home, but you don't want to do the shopping and figuring out all the recipes and the portioning and all that, HelloFresh handles that stuff for you, and you cook it. It's a cool business model.
Use promo code Matt and Matt, by the way, if you decide to.
They have a new promo code.
Sounds like an ad.
They have a better promo code, I guess. Yeah. But on Instagram yesterday, HelloFresh's main corporate account says, official statement, we know eating isn't always a top priority this month. We respect that. But for those of you who are, dramatic pause, prepping, we have an extensive lineup of high fiber recipes available. Happy Pride.
That's disgusting.
Now, this is so overt and so gross that I handed the phone to my parents yesterday because I thought my parents are so innocent. They will not understand this. And it did take them a moment to figure it out, but once they did, they were thoroughly disgusted. This is supposed to be subtle, I guess. Ooh, those of you who are ... prepping, yeah, we get it. Your company, your meal company, is now devoted to butt sex. And when I mentioned that this is not entirely new, there was a similar promotional from Postmates, which is they I think they deliver groceries or other things you're shopping for.
I think it's just Uber Eats and DoorDash. It's one of those
yes
type of things. Yeah.
By the way, I got one step ahead. That promo code from HelloFresh, someone suggested bottoms up, and they responded affirmatively. Oh, coming right up. Discount code bottoms up for Pride Month. Okay. So Postmates kind of did this before. They had a bottom-friendly menu. But the biggest thing about all of this is we're constantly told that the gay lifestyle, the gay identity, is about so much more. It's about being your authentic self. It's about love is love. It's about loving who you naturally do according to who you are. There's no choice component. There's no control that any person exerts over the gay identity. And yet HelloFresh and Postmates before HelloFresh are reducing what it means to be gay simply to commitment to butt sex. That's what Pride Month is all about. Commitment to butt sex. That's supposed to be my point as a critic, that you are putting butt sex above everything. Instead, they're just coming out and saying, yeah, we know we make prepackaged meal kits, but don't forget about butt sex when you are ordering our product. And I don't know. I know a lot of these meal prep companies, Blue Apron, HelloFresh. This is an industry that really took off and was really popular. As far as I understand, they've lost some business in recent years just because it's not as popular as it used to be. But I can't imagine. I guess I can imagine who's in charge at HelloFresh marketing, that they decided, I know, let's do a pro butt sex post to sell meals. Who's buying the meals based on your pro butt sex stance? That's what I would like to know.
So I'm not endorsing this, obviously, but I will say it's the first time that a Pride advertisement is honest about what they are celebrating. Usually, I'm repeating your point, but it's the love is love, which is always
much more subtle.
Which is always said as if only gay people can love each other, like they're the only ones capable. So, yeah. From a business perspective, if you're in the food business, associating it with fecal matter is probably not the correct move there. So, would not recommend that.
It's a bold move. I will say I haven't talked about HelloFresh in years, and now I am. So I guess their marketing team won this round. Yeah. Okay, last Sunday, of course, and then into Wednesday, we discussed the Henry Nowak case in the UK, both the murder conviction of his killer, that Sikh guy, Vikram Digwa, which you and I discussed last weekend, Matt, and the newly released body cam video, which we discussed on the Wednesday stream. And then there was some white people riot reaction to. That's how bad it is. White people are rioting, and it's all Nigel Farage's fault. All right. So recall in the body cam video, I assume you've seen it, Matt, or have you not?
Yeah, it's a horrible video. And I saw in Matt Walsh's reporting, he was quoting from, it might have been the Daily Mail or somewhere, was claiming that the Sikh guy, that there were things he was saying taunting the victim that were quote unquote too disturbing to be played in court, which sounds impossible to me, in that if you're showing a guy getting murdered, what else could have been too shocking? But I had seen him report that. I trust Matt Walsh. So it's, it was a horrible video. And the thing is, I mean, listen, and I guess I'm also quoting Matt Walsh here. He was saying that the science on this is that he had an 80% chance of dying even with medical attention. But that being said, 1 in 5 is still not horrible odds. And B, it was the callousness of it, of just them absolutely not caring
and not believing him.
And not believing him. The dumbest take I saw was it was this boomer who was comparing the British police to Nazis. And I'm like, yeah, the Nazis totally would have sided with the Sikh guy in this dispute. Great analysis there, guys. Fucking kidding me? Anyway.
Recall in the body cam video, we see police doing what you're describing. They're dismissing Henry, saying he'd been stabbed, which he had. And they handcuff him and they read him his rights instead, because they think that he was racist to a Sikh guy and he bled out and he died. Well, now there is apparently going to be an investigation into the police. So per the BBC, an inquest jury will consider whether any act or omission by police officers on this case or delay in treatment caused or contributed to Henry Nowak's death. Hampshire coroner Jason Pegg says the full circumstances surrounding Henry's death have not been properly scrutinized. For now, this jury inquest is scheduled for September 20th, 2027, as in a year and a half from now. He does hope to move that forward. So this is a long way off, but it's possible there is forthcoming accountability for those police officers on the case. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I fear it's going to be a case of we investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing, unfortunately.
Well, it's the jury's decision, though, right? So it's not. Well, I don't know exactly how this works, but it's the jury's decision to launch the investigation. Mm-hmm. I assume that the direction of the investigation is out of the police department's hands, but I don't know.
That would be good then. All right.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Well, let's hope so then. All right.
Recall there's still a seat to fill at the DOJ for Attorney General, at least on a long-term basis. Pam Bondi was fired as AG more than 2 months ago.
Come and get me, Pam Bondi.
Her deputy and former Trump personal attorney Todd Blanche has served as acting AG since, and now Trump is saying that he's going to nominate Todd Blanche to be Attorney General. No qualifiers. So the question, obviously, is he a good pick? Well, on the one hand, he is also part of Pam Bondi's failures as her top assistant through her tenure, including, yes, the Epstein debacle. In fact, Pam Bondi was telling Congress this week it's actually all Todd Blanche's fault. He was in charge of all the Epstein stuff, which I don't doubt that he played a significant role, but it would be just like Pam Bondi to say, who, me? No, that wasn't me. I didn't do anything wrong. So decide who you believe there. But on the other hand, since Pam Bondi has left, there has been, I would say, more meaningful action at the Justice Department, more significant moves. You have Comey charged again, which I don't think that's going anywhere. But again, if you're a process is the punishment type person, okay, that's a move. As we'll get to later in the show, the Southern Poverty Law Center indictment. Yep. You have the Raul Castro indictment, the guy in Cuba. Now, that doesn't mean that all of these are going to result in convictions or meaningful sentences or anything like that. I do think it's fair to say that we've seen a more active DOJ with Bondi gone, though those convictions and punishments are yet to be seen. You know what you're going to get with Blanche because he's been there through the entirety of Trump's second term. Some good, some very not good. The other question with Blanche is can he get confirmed? So Fetterman is already on record, the senator from Pennsylvania, saying he's not going to support Todd Blanche because he's citing Todd Blanche's work on this now abandoned weaponization fund. He's saying that's disqualifying. Fetterman presumably is the only Democrat who would even consider a yes for Todd Blanche. So now that no Democrats are on board, presumably, you have many pesky Republicans. Remember, Republicans have 53 votes this session of Congress, and we'll see where it plays out after the midterms. But you have at least, you have the ones that you'll get into with the SAVE Act: Murkowski, Collins, Tillis, McConnell, maybe even Cornyn just to be a dick over the primary, right. That kind and of Cassidy, the people Cassidy, who got primaried. Yeah. So Blanche was previously confirmed to be deputy AG. That was a Senate confirmed position. He was confirmed on partisan lines 52-46, but a lot has changed since then. So I don't think it's at all a sure bet that Todd Blanche is going to be confirmed. And so we'll see where that goes. And I'm going to get into this in my story, but Tom Tillis was one of the Republicans who voted against the SAVE Act, and he's been having a lot of heated back and forth with Trump recently. That's relevant because Tom Tillis was one of the co-sponsors of the SAVE Act, meaning he's 100% doing this just to get back at Trump. So they are willing to do that. Yeah, just to be a dick on the way out. Okay, we also have the controversial pick of Bill. I think it's Pulte. I should have looked up how to pronounce his name. Yeah. Pulte. Bill Pulte. His family's big and concerned. I see their signs everywhere. Pulte Homes or whatever. Oh, are they big in your neck of the woods or what? I've never seen this name before, but
no, yeah, they're
he's in housing clearly.
Yes, yeah, obviously. Yeah, they own a big company. I mean, I thought he was an odd choice for housing director or whatever his position was before this, because he got removed from the board of a company his family owns, and I'm like, what the hell do you have? What the hell do you have to do wrong for that to happen?
Well, at least he's loyal. At least he's qualified in the most important thing, being loyal to Trump. All right. So there's a vacancy at the office of the Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard resigned 2 weeks ago. This week, Trump picked Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte to be acting DNI, just the temporary DNI until Trump makes a permanent pick. And this is controversial because Pulte has no intelligence or national security experience. And so many are highly critical of this. And they've been critical of his tenure at the Housing Finance Agency as well, because he has used his authority there to go after some of Trump's opponents, including Letitia James, the New York Attorney General.
Which is why I support him taking this job he has no qualifications for, because I think he's just going to be an attack dog, and I don't know, that's fine with me, and it's going to be temporary. It's a temporary thing,
and it's already having positive effects. So the question is, why is Trump doing this now? Speaking with the Wall Street Journal, Trump said that Pulte, he basically said that this move is to downsize a lot of the Office of Director of National Intelligence. It's just too big, and
I don't know no one knows what they do. Like,
well, it does seem like
Tulsi Gabbard been doing? Did anyone have a clue?
They oversee all 18 intel agencies, but yeah, what does that mean? And it seems like this is an area of bloat in the post 9/11 era, where we just created agencies and offices and people who claim to do stuff, but they don't really do anything. So it sounds like Trump is putting this guy in position to fire people in the intel community or eliminate offices, which would be a good thing to do in general, not just for the intel community, but for the federal government overall. But when I mentioned the positive effects, Senate Democrats are so mad about the selection of Bill Pulte for temporary or acting ODNI that they refuse to reauthorize FISA.
Good. Awesome.
Please, I already liked Pulte.
That's awesome.
We'll show him. We don't trust him. So, of course, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is a controversial law post 9/11 that allows the intel agencies to collect information or spy on targets of foreign surveillance. But of course, what's happened in the many years since, American citizens have been caught up tangentially, incidentally, by their connections to these foreign targets, supposedly. But it's been an area of widespread abuse.
Well, you can. It's so easy to backdoor surveillance, and that if I'm in communications with X, Y, and Z person who you can justify a warrant against, you spy on them, and then by proxy you can spy on anyone they communicate with if they were your real goal. So sorry to cut you off.
So they will reauthorize FISA, though. It's just they think they have leverage. We'll show you. You can't. Remember, everybody's been calling for the end of FISA for years and years. You can never get it done. You just have to nominate some jackass to be ODNI.
Yeah.
And then they won't do it anymore. All right. Easy solution. Thank you to Trump on that one. Although, of course, this is going to be resolved long term, I'm sure. Resolved, air quotes, in their view.
One good thing, though, he is doing in his housing role is he's trying to privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which were nationalized during the housing crisis. And based on what they could trade at on a public market, there's potentially hundreds of billions of dollars for the taxpayer if that does end up happening. I mean, it's crazy. It would be crazy to actually pull it off, but I don't know. I think it's something good he has been doing in addition to potentially this.
Well, former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton has now reached a plea deal. He will plead guilty to charges of mishandling classified information. This, according to sources talking with CNN this week. Bolton, of course, is accused of keeping a diary at his home with notes on his time in the first Trump White House. And these notes contain sensitive information he was not authorized to hold there. And he also shared or is accused of sharing sensitive information by email with his wife and daughter. So now he's going to plead guilty to one felony. He had like a dozen charges against him. Now he's going to plead guilty to one felony count of illegal retention of sensitive information. He will pay a $2 million fine. Damn. So I guess I hope you made more than $2 million on the book.
I doubt it. Yeah,
maybe he did. I don't know. Trump Hate sells pretty well. You should try it. Actually, your next book should be Trump Sucks. by Matt Palumbo.
Well, I'm trying to think of the math. Well, it's tough because book deals are incredible for bribing people and money laundering. In that, like you'll see, like a politician will release a book, and then some organization will buy up $1 million worth of copies of it. That's just a way to bribe someone legally, but have it be for a service. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the exact deal with his sales was, but if you're getting a 10 or 15% royalty, it's 20-ish million in sales you need to do. Obviously, it's quite a lot of money in book sales.
Well, it's also possible that Bolton goes to prison because a conviction on this felony count can come with a prison sentence of up to 5 years, though we don't know what Bolton was promised in exchange for this plea deal just yet. But the only way that Bolton would do this, presumably, is if the evidence against him is pretty solid. And remember when Bolton was charged last fall, it was a threat to democracy because the president is targeting his critics. Well, I know that a guilty plea doesn't always mean guilty strictly on the facts. I know people might take pleas to avoid the risk of going to trial in general, whether they did the crime or not. It's more complicated than just if you plead guilty, you are 100% guilty. But I just don't see a world in which you plead guilty to a serious felony charge if there's little or no evidence that you committed the crime. So I don't know that this was all it was cranked up to be half a year ago about the threat to our democratic tradition when John Bolton got charged.
I think it's simultaneously true that he was politically targeted and that he is also there was wrongdoing and he's guilty. In that, listen, he tried to pick a bone with Trump and he broke the law in doing so. Trump targeted him because he came after him first and was also subversive during his administration, so he put a target on his back. But you could be politically targeted and be guilty. You could be politically targeted and be innocent, as was the case in with Trump over his million indictments. So, maybe just don't break the law next time.
I'm sure that mustache will be appreciated in prison if he gets there. All right, time to check in on whatever's going on with California vote counting. And my sources say that there's been a new ballot drop since I checked in on this earlier. And so I don't bury the headline, the noodle lady, Nithya Raman, has in fact taken over Spencer Pratt.
They called it.
It looks they did call it. I didn't even see that.
I think the decision desk or one of those people popped up on my feed before the show. Yeah, unfortunately.
So as of this hour, looking at the governor's race first, we have about 72% of the vote in. On Wednesday, when we checked it on this, Steve Hilton, Republican, was leading. That is not the case anymore. Now the leader is former California Attorney General and Biden HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra.
Javier Baccaria.
Or Jose Diarrhea. He has the lead over Hilton, 27 and 26%. I always almost call him Tom Steyer. He is still riding the D, as you said to me.
Parentheses, train.
Right. He's still running train. He's still riding the D. He is still in the race at 22%. So Baccaria, as is the official Joe Biden pronunciation. He is not declared the winner, but he is declared to advance. So Baccaria will be in the governor's race. Presumably, you're going to get Steve Hilton as well. Remember, California runs these jungle primaries. Everybody competes against everybody, and the top two advance. Presumably, you get Jose Diarrhea against Steve Hilton, but you have an estimated 2.7 million votes remaining to count still after an election on Tuesday. So a lot could happen. And the LA mayor's race just looks like an outright scam at this point. So on Wednesday, when we checked in, incumbent Karen Bass had something like 38, high 30s of the vote. Challenger Spencer Pratt had about 31%. And then you had socialist Nithya Raman down in the 20% range. So it looked like that Bass-Pratt matchup was coming. And then the magic mail-in ballots arrived. And Spencer Pratt's lead over the ramen noodle lady earlier today it was at 1%. Now he has no lead. Now it's gone. Now he's down 0.5%.
And she was crying on election night. So I'm not sure what to make of that. Like, does that mean if it's rigged, she had no role in it, or was this the biggest performance ever? I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't.
That it's just other party power structures are at work here, and she actually is not personally a part of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was looking into what are the arguments, just so everyone has both perspectives, that there is no fraud going on in the race. And I think Steve Kornacki in your opening was kind of was explaining it.
I've got the clip. You want to? Should I cue it up and you can?
Well, I'm not sure if it's saying what I was going to say, but in California, and this is absurd, you can submit a mail-in ballot on Election Day, and it gets counted. So the liberal counter-argument is, well, Republicans already don't trust mail-in voting, so they're certainly not going to trust it sending it on Election Day, in which case you're going to have more left-wing voters, yada, yada. Now, why would they break so much for Rahman over Bass in that case? That's obviously a little suspicious, but I will say Pratt's percentage of the vote that he has is almost identical to the percent of the vote that Trump had in LA in 2024. So it is consistent in that regard, although I totally get how it looks here. And I would say, too, with California, like California is a state where you don't necessarily need to rig it given how, the lead in registered Democrats versus Republicans. But the fact that the elections take this long to count, which is absurd, all the various rules and when you can submit a ballot, it does have a demoralizing impact against the right in that I don't think a single Republican in California feels like their vote is going to count anyway. So what is the point of going out and voting regardless? Even in a world with no fraud in that state, you still feel like your vote doesn't matter simply because of how the process is.
I'm sure the demoralizing is the intent.
Is the goal.
Because, and that's you make an important point that I want to emphasize, that the quote unquote fraud here, and I don't use the air quotes to say that it's not real necessarily. What I mean is when people say, well, it's not fraud, it's legal, they are right. Now, that doesn't mean that it's right or good or even moral, but I do think that there's a very easy way to operate within California law that is having this effect. So you mentioned Steve Kornacki in your example. So here's Steve Kornacki on NBC News this week explaining, well, the two hosts act like it's some kind of mystery why the mail-in ballots break almost exclusively for Democrats. Here's the clip.
Why would those votes, we don't know what they're going to be, but why would the mail-in votes, the later votes, break for Rahman, possibly? Because that is the pattern in California with this system. I mean, we've seen this now probably for about a decade out there. It's those votes that get tabulated after Election Day. They tend to be, almost always are, heavily Democratic. We've seen this in congressional races in California now over the last decade or so, where on election night we've had cases, a number of them, where the Republican candidate is ahead at the end of election night, and then it's a process over days, sometimes even weeks in these key congressional races, where just with every one of the updates, like you just saw right here in L.A., the Democrats get closer and closer and closer and end up pulling ahead. It's that the Democratic vote, for whatever reason, tends to use the mail a lot more than the Republican voters do, and they tend to send them in much later than the Republican votes do. We've seen this for a long time in California.
Yeah, it's not for whatever reason. It's the way the system is designed. So
here's the thing. It is 100% true that mail-in votes tend to be overwhelmingly Democrat. It's just the why for Rahman over Bass. That's what's unexplained.
Because that's what the machine wants. They want to eliminate a Republican, even though it's nonpartisan in their Pratt is effectively a Republican.
But I meant like he said with certainty he knew they were going to go for Rahman. It's like, well, why her specifically of the two
Because
Democrats,
she's the next viable Democrat after Bass. There has to be two per the system.
Right.
So in California, you have not just mail-in voting, as in if you get your ballot in the mail before close on Election Day, it counts. You have a system of ballot harvesting too, as in I can go around and just collect the ballots of anybody. There's no restriction on having a certain relationship to that person. In fact, in California, there's no restriction on the quantity of ballots that you can collect, meaning what? If ballots are just spammed everywhere by mail in California, which they are, if you are a smart Democratic operator and you're well-funded, you go where? You go to the nursing homes, you go to the apartment complexes, you go to any place that is concentrated with voters, and you bang on doors, you be annoying to people and say, listen, I'm going to deliver your ballot, and the easy way to make me go away is just by checking this box. And now, technically, there might be violations of law in influencing the voter. That's never going to be. There might be some specifics in California law about that. But as a legal matter, anybody, It could be a perfect stranger could pick up your ballot from your apartment in California and all of your neighbors' ballots in the entire building and deliver them to a mailbox at 11:59 p.m. on election day, or whenever the post office closes, and you get that postmark on it. And that's all perfectly legal. So it's not that, strictly speaking, Republicans could do it, but they don't have the game to do it in the way that Democrats do. And so in effect, in combination with the jungle primary, it means what? You make sure that there's no opposition effectively on the general election ballot. Yeah, you're going to get socialist candidate versus like more traditional Democrat, but there will be no conservative alternative. And you talk about demoralizing. That's how you get it. If I was a Republican in LA, I mean, I guess I would still vote because I feel like it's my duty to do it. But how long am I going to do that? You know that your vote doesn't matter by design of the people in power there. And there's a certain level of just outright disrespect for that it's like, why would you participate in that system if you know that that in principle, as a matter of the regulation, the law, they don't care?
Yeah, 100%. And then they also have the infrastructure for ballot harvesting that we just don't. I mean, they'll go to communities where people probably don't even speak English and harvest their ballots. I can't ever imagine a Republican doing that. And I think it's also useful that, when we talk about voter fraud, or even not outright fraud, but things like this that are just shady behavior, like if we're going to allege fraud, we also need a theory of how the fraud is occurring. Or else, like, you have to correctly diagnose the problem to fight against it. If we just say fraud every time we lose, well, maybe we're losing for a reason besides that. I think fraud happens. I just don't think it happens in every single state. I think in 2020, for instance, it was concentrated in a handful of swing states as opposed to, a national thing, for instance. But
well, if you're going to do it, you target specific markets.
Exactly.
And, there's a lot of opportunities like this where it's not cheating by the letter of the law, but of course, it's dishonest in that you're collecting the ballots of people who wouldn't vote, but for your annoyance, but for your pressure.
Let me see. Tim texted to check my phone. Let's see. We got it. They did call it for noodles, but there's still 17% to count, which is almost 150,000 votes. C-SPAN declared her election night speech a quote-unquote concession speech, which is what I interpreted it. I mean, she was crying, so...
Could just be, I don't know. Could have been tears of joy. Who knows? All right. I want to get into the Karmelo Anthony stuff because I got so much to talk about and the night's going to get away from me. But the trial of Karmelo Anthony is on at the Collin County Courthouse in McKinney, Texas. Again, this is the murder trial of black student Karmelo Anthony, who is he did stab him.
In his words.
Yeah, right. He said that. I forgot. Yeah. He stabbed white student Austin Metcalf to death. So the accusation is not did he stab him, it's was it justified or not. Stabbed Austin Metcalf to death at a high school track meet in April 2025. Anthony and Metcalf attended different schools, but they were both competing at this track meet. And the state says it was murder, and that's the case that they're now prosecuting. Karmelo Anthony says it was self-defense. The trial is not televised or live streamed, so we have to rely on reporters' descriptions and characterizations of what's going on inside the courthouse. But yesterday, the prosecution rested its case after calling 21 witnesses. I think the prosecution's case actually lasted over 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday, I believe. Yep. But a lot of their witnesses were students who were there under the tent where this stabbing happened. We have yet to hear the defense's case. Again, I presume that's happening this coming week here. But there are several problems that have emerged for Karmelo Anthony's self-defense claim. Again, maybe he has answers for these, but it's a lot of obstacles he's going to have to overcome. So the prosecution brought several different witnesses. Again, mostly students, but they all are telling a similar story. So you're going to have to get around these witnesses, saying that Anthony was the aggressor by being in the wrong team tent and daring other people to move him. So there's a rainstorm that comes through at this track meet. You have all these teams with their different tents, and Karmelo Anthony, who doesn't belong to the school or is not a student athlete at the school where Austin Metcalf was attending, is in the team tent just for some reason. And Anthony refuses to leave for an extended period of time, this team tent that he did not belong to. after what witnesses say was some 15 requests to leave. Hey, man, this is not your tent. You got to get out of here. Karmelo Anthony said things to the effect of, "You're not going to move me. You're a bitch. Touch me and find out." Okay, at some point, according to these witnesses, Austin Metcalf gives Anthony a soft shove. Then Anthony reaches into his backpack for a folding knife and stabs Metcalf in the chest. Now, several of these student witnesses were asked if they believed that the stabbing was justified or if it was self-defense, if they saw it that way. They said no. Okay, you also have the problem for Karmelo Anthony of video contradicting a claim he has made or is expected to make about a bunch of kids ganging up on him. So we'll see if he goes with this argument in his defense upcoming. But the idea here is that he was ganged up on by a bunch of students, by a bunch of other kids, and that he had to stab to neutralize that threat of multiple aggressors. But there is apparently video evidence contrary to that claim. We can't see the stabbing necessarily. It's video that's further away, but we can see the general event of what's going on. The prosecution presented that video to the jury, and it doesn't sound like this is a group effort.
Anthony's defense attorneys say he stabbed Metcalf, who was unarmed, out of fear as a group was, quote, turning on him. But prosecutors yesterday in court showed jurors surveillance footage they say tells a different story. The footage, it's grainy and shot from a distance, but reporters inside the courtroom tell us it shows a brief confrontation between Anthony and Metcalf, not a larger group, before Anthony runs from the scene. And that fight, it only lasted about 4 minutes or so.
Okay, so it sounds like Karmelo Anthony is going to have a lot of matters of fact to overcome when he presents his defense. There's also the complicating factor that Anthony's lawyers got 0 black jurors or 0 black people on the jury.
Yeah.
And as there's a funny meme questioning it. Remember this guy got like $500,000 or $750,000 on GoFundMe? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you get all that money, you blow it on nonsense, so you can't afford a lawyer. And your public defender gets you an all-white jury. Now, I'm not clear if it's actually all-white. I thought there were some minority members.
So I saw the meme. He actually doesn't have a public defender. I guess they didn't blow all the money. But also, I guess got the same result. No, so there is I think there's Asian and an Arab woman on it. I think it's I think there's 3 non-white people.
But no black people to give you the O.J. Simpson result of revenge.
Yes.
Revenge voting.
Which I think is why they even went to trial was, God, please give us at least 1 black juror. But if you look at the demographics of the area, it's about 10 or so % black, meaning by random chance, you're going to have it all white. You could, a juror with no black people a pretty good percentage of the time. Yeah.
So speaking of that tribalism, which has been observed in trials past, you have protesters of color outside the courthouse, and they are not going to let the facts get in the way of that racial tribalism and racial agitating on behalf of Karmelo Anthony. So Savannah Hernandez from Frontline's TPUSA was there, and many of these protesters openly admit they do not care about the facts. They only care that Karmelo Anthony was black because black racial solidarity is all that matters.
If evidence does come out that Karmelo was not in fact fighting for his life when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, do you think that the black community will accept that?
If evidence shows that he did not, no, we're gonna stand by ours regardless. They stand by theirs. So yeah, this is about race. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't give a damn.
Who wouldn't give a damn?
Let me say this. Let's say the community.
Nobody go to a track meet to murder anybody. Okay, come on. That's an accident, self-defense, that's what it was. The justice system always over-respond when it comes to us.
He was not an aggressor. Karmelo was not an aggressor. He was minding his damn business when the boys came up to him.
I don't think nothing's funny about it.
I have not heard of accidental self-defense before. Have you?
No, and then the whole, he didn't go to the track meet to kill someone. Okay. I mean, okay, so it wasn't premeditated, but it still happened, so who cares?
Well, it wasn't premeditated for an extensive amount of time.
I should step back. It was premeditated for 20 seconds or for however many minutes the argument went on for.
He took, personal disrespect as a license to stab.
Yep. And but here's the thing, like I assume most people have this woman's attitude, and that if I am, God forbid, on public transit and someone of a particular demographic is talking loudly on speakerphone or blaring their music, I assume they want me to tell them to turn it off so they can attack me. And so I just go, all right, whatever. This is the cost of doing business in America in this year. Oh, well. It's what I have to deal with. Thanks, slavery.
We shouldn't have to live like this, but here
really
we okay. It was not just the fact denialism and racial tribalism. There were threats made to racial outsiders as well. So January 6th, activist Jake Lang was there, and he apparently said outside the courthouse that Karmelo Anthony deserves to hang, and that was not well received. So it got the activists of color upset, and they started issuing death threats to Jake Lang, but also to just other white people.
Only good cracker is a dead cracker. Only good cracker is a dead cracker. Only good cracker is a dead cracker. Get my face on the camera. We kill crackers. Where I come from, we kill them. And if I ever see you outside of Texas, you're going to have a problem. I'm going to wrap you up in that flag and I'm going to set it on fire. I like the smell of burning flesh, don't you? See, the time of you having fear on us is over, cracker. It's over, cracker. We ain't scared of you. We going to do some Nat Turner shit on you, motherfucker.
Fuck around and find out.
Okay, so there was just some random white guy who walked over and stood with them, and that set off his meltdown.
Yeah, that
was all it took.
This dude is not scared of white people anymore. He should be scared of heart attacks and diabetes.
Yeah.
Apparently scared of Ozempic as well. He's not willing to gamble on that. Their
slurs for us suck, but they have thousands of slurs against us, and we only need one. Like, who is winning that argument? You know?
But
anyway.
The guy recording that second clip where the fat black guy is threatening to burn his flesh is I don't know who this guy. He's a younger white guy known online as Shinzo the Abe, a reference to the former Japanese prime minister. That's the title in Japan, right? As far as I can tell, he was not like Jake Lang saying that Karmelo needs to hang. Maybe he did say that. I don't know. But from everything I've seen, he was just standing there with a flag, drinking a Monster. And he was accused of being an agitator for standing there Nick Sandman style with the assault smirk.
Yeah. Why would you walk over here knowing that it can get hectic? I'm just asking.
I didn't know it was going to get hectic. I was just coming over to talk to some people over here that I thought we were it's public sidewalk.
So it ain't no like you're aggravating those situations.
Yeah, I don't think I appeared to be trying to provoke anything. I just walked over here.
Now, other than the bizarre way he holds his drink, I would say this is
he's an alien.
This is peak patriotism.
And I'm proud to be an American.
So thanks to this young man for standing up for what's right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's in like I feel like if I was in his situation, my adrenaline would be going because I know that there's a very possible threat of death. So the fact that he can just sit there calmly and drink an energy drink is very cool.
Actually, you're right. This guy is facing a greater risk of lynching at this moment in time than any black person has faced in the last 100 years. And I'm pretty sure he survived.
Dude, this is off topic. Maybe this is a question for the chat. Does anyone know why the white monster is like a right-wing symbol now? I see it everywhere. I don't know the origin of that or anything, but
I saw a lot of comments on the white monster, which I prefer the Rockstar Ultra Zero, but very similar. The monster, the white monster.
I think Michael Savage's son founded that company, Rockstar, isn't that or something?
I don't know. It's been around for a long time, so I don't know what the origin of it is. But anyway, without saying too much, we're going to try to get more clarity on this event outside the Karmelo Anthony murder trial very soon. So stand by. Okay, let's see. We got 12 minutes. I think we can get through both Graham Platner and your Save Act story before we get to Super Chat.
Perfect.
Let's see if we can do it. The Graham Platner story, the hits keep coming in Maine. So remember, Graham Platner is the Democrat Nazi tattoo guy running for Senate. The primary is coming up on Tuesday. Last week, the Walls. What the hell was that?
Oh, so I just threw.
I thought you cracked a white monster.
No, it was a cap to my.
That's right. I forgot. You're a balls guy. Is that what that is?
What? No, it's Saratoga Sparkling.
Oh, I thought remember the balls blue bottle like that?
No, what the hell's that? I don't even know.
You don't know?
Is.
It's not. It's BAWLS. Remember that drink? That was pretty popular for a while. Anyway, okay. Last week. Yeah, balls.
I've never had balls before. I'm like,
sure you haven't
on this show. Yeah,
try it for Pride Month. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported through a campaign source informed by his wife that Platner had been sexting a half dozen other women early in his marriage in 2023. Now this week, we have this New York Times profile from or on several Platner ex-girlfriends who say he made them uncomfortable. And one accuses him of getting mildly physical, grabbing her by the shoulders. Now, I actually mostly don't care about these accusations.
Me neither.
They do raise some interesting questions tangentially. I want to get to those in a moment. But the first problem for Platner, beyond the new accusations in the New York Times, is the communication and his inability to keep the story straight. So last weekend, remember, he sent his wife out to respond to the sexting scandal, and her response implied, if not outright said, it's all true, which it is because she's the source. But then on Monday, Platner comes out with his wife, and he says that the story's all false. The contents of the report are not true.
But the stories are true, right? About the texts?
No. This is the amazing part. The Wall Street Journal and the New York Times ran stories without any evidence besides the gossip from a former staffer. I'm sorry. That's frankly journalistic malpractice. We pushed back on it. They won it. They did it anyways. So.
Anyways, that son of a bitch.
Did not exist.
What's that?
The messages, they did not.
I'm confirming that what Genevieve McDonald said in the New York Times is not true.
So you never met with her about uncomfortable, for lack of a better word, sexting messages as the campaign was going?
We talked about things in Amy and I's marriage that we've gone through over the years.
Okay, even though his wife is right there and she's already said it's true, now it's not true anymore. Then Graham Platner appears on MS Now with Chris Hayes on Thursday, and he now says it's true that he was sexting other women early in his marriage.
Were you sending sexually explicit messages to other women back in 2023, 2024?
This is the first time in my life that Amy and I's marriage has been the interest of people besides Amy and I. At the beginning of our marriage, I made mistakes, and Amy held me accountable for them, and we worked through them.
When did it stop?
Oh, it stopped when it was happening. I mean, like it was Amy and I, it happened soon after we got married. And we dealt with it very, very early in our relationship. And so that's when it stopped.
The people you were texting with, whatever that was, in whatever context, they were adult women, you knew that, and it was consensual. Is that true?
Yes.
And you have that you confirmed that. You knew their age.
Yes. Oh, God. I mean, yeah. Yes, of course.
Based on his inconsistent messaging so far, decide if you believe him about not sexting minors. Perhaps that's the next one to drop. But yesterday, Graham Platner is doing one of his final rallies before the primary on Tuesday, and he says all the stuff is false again.
And when politically motivated, serious and false accusations are made against me, Maine, you have my back.
Okay, in fairness, maybe he means only the latest New York Times piece on his ex-girlfriends is a false attack, but it's all very muddled now, and things go from true to false depending on the day and whichever interview it is. There is one hilarious accusation or description in this story.
I know exactly what you're about to read. The not in a gay... Okay, yeah, awesome. This is the best part.
This is one of his ex-girlfriends accuses him of endorsing what I like to call and have previously called rape in self-defense. Okay, per the story, quote, he had what she, his ex-girlfriend, described as a warrior ethos and would fantasize about killing people he deemed a threat, she said. She said he told her that rape was about power. It was something that stuck with her through the years, Miss Fifield said, I think is her name, Fifield, however you say it. he said this a lot. If anybody ever broke in here, I would rape them, she recalled, saying that he added that it would not be in a, quote, sexual way, not in a gay way. He was like, I would rape them to show them that I'm dominant, she said. Asked about those remarks, a Platner campaign official did not dispute them. Now, the reason I bring this up, there are two. One, I don't actually care about comments between, like, if you got every piece of commentary between every couple, there are all kinds of like terrible jokes and things taken out of context that don't make sense to outsiders because you guys share a sense of humor and just a broader understanding of each other, that something that might sound weird to somebody else actually makes sense within the confines of your marriage. But two, this is actually a very interesting moral consideration. And if longtime listeners of the show recall, during the former iteration of this show, we considered this very question several years ago. If you can kill someone who invades your home in self-defense, why can't you rape in self-defense? Why not rape that person? Why is that not justified? And isn't rape, in fact, more humane? Because you're not killing them. You're just teaching them a lesson, like Graham Platner's talking about.
I would say that, I mean, the most offensive part in here is the implied homophobia, and that he would only not do it if it was gay, you know?
Right. It's not gay at all.
Totally.
Now,
also, I might be getting ahead of you, but one of the exes also confirmed he, in fact, knew his obvious Nazi tattoo was, in fact, a Nazi tattoo.
Yeah. Well,
which, I mean, how would you not? Yeah.
Well, between rape and self-defense and the Nazi tattoo, I'm moving. If I could, I'm voting Graham Platner.
I get it. I get your perspective.
This is very based material. I appreciate it very much. Now, we did discuss it thoroughly when this moral consideration was discussed on the show previously. We came to the conclusion that rape in self-defense is not acceptable because the killing is only justified when it's necessary to neutralize the threat. The ability to rape, however, implies that the threat is already neutralized and you are just taking advantage of the situation.
You have to ask the robber or the invader if they subscribe to HelloFresh before you do anything.
Did you use promo code Bottoms Up? Did you try the bottom-friendly recipe? Because we're going to give this a go.
Oh, man.
All right. Last thing I want to say about Graham Platner, I just want to question who's behind this a little bit, because Platner's campaign in this story in the New York Times, they're blaming Republicans. They say one of these ex-girlfriends is a Republican operative, which, as far as I gather, she is.
She follows me on Twitter when I was looking her up. I'm like, oh, that's all right. So I guess she's in right-wing circles.
Wait, is she the rape and self-defense one?
I think so, yeah.
We have to get her to talk about rape and self-defense then. She might not want to talk right now, but eventually we have to discuss rape and self-defense.
I'll get on that next.
Okay. But who, okay, so Platner's blaming Fifield, whatever her name is. She is a Republican operative, as far as I understand, has been active in Republican politics. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense for Republicans to be dropping this kind of stuff against Graham Platner right now if you had it. If you had it, you want Platner to be the nominee and you drop it in the general because it damages him then. If you have it now and you drop it in the primary, guess what Democrats do? Replace him with a better candidate, and now your opposition research is wasted and they actually benefit because they got the bad guy out and they get a better person in. So it seems to me sensible that Democrats would be the one dropping this information because they don't like Platner or they otherwise want him removed. The problem there is they don't have a viable candidate outside of him, but I wonder if this isn't the sort of move where it's Kamala style. Listen, we're going to damage him and we'll have the stupid election in which he wins, but the damage will become so great that he's going to have to be removed post-primary and we will install our candidate without a vote, Kamala style, and then we get to run that candidate against Susan Collins. Highly speculative. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me that if Republicans were orchestrating this, they would deploy it now. It's not a sensible time to deploy it.
Yeah, the point of an October surprise is you do it right before the election.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, too, people's attention spans or memory in politics is 1 to 2 weeks tops for most candidates and issues, and that the percentage of the population that will forget about this or any individual scandal is actually quite high. I mean, really, only the Nazi tattoo is a memorable one, and that gossip about from ex-girlfriends, I don't think most people really even care about that much.
I forgot one key piece of this story, too. Platner has even lost Based Frankenstein, John Fetterman.
Oh, no.
In fact, I don't know if he lost him. I think they had a prior feud, it sounds like. John Fetterman says he will actually clean up his act. He will ditch the hoodies. He will wear a suit every day if Platner will prove that he has never sent dick pics to minors.
And now I said, now, P. Hustle, here's a great chance. You can just prove that all these people that you're dropping those dick pics and saying these things to were over 18. And now I will wear a suit every day in the Senate. And now you can set the record clear and provide all those texts and all those conversations that you were having as a newlywed, but just before you were going to run for the Senate.
He touched young people.
Why does Fetterman call him P. Hustle? They I guess they have some pre-existing rapper feud or something.
Some rapper feud. Yeah, I don't.
The diss track is going to be great. I can't wait to hear it.
It's a funny comment, but also like just wear a suit, you slob. How hard is it? Did you see there was a reporter of the New York Post back when Fetterman took office where he did a bit where he tried to get into New York City restaurants dressed as Fetterman and kept getting rejected. And then Fetterman read the story and now they're friends and hang out and stuff.
If Platner gets to the Senate, this Fetterman-Platner feud is going to be amazing to watch. I can't wait. And if Platner is P. Hustle, that's his rapper name. I need a rapper name for John Fetterman, Based Frankenstein. But Based Frankenstein is not a rapper name. And I wanted to think of some before the show, but I ran out of time. So if anybody has good nominations for John Fetterman rapper names, please send them my way because I think we're going to need them for future reference. But we're at the top of the hour. Let's do the save act before we get to Super Chat and our guests. And of course, thank you to our Super Chatters. I hate to make you wait, but I knew I was going to run a little bit long this show.
It's going to be a long show. It's it's going to be great.
All right. So what do we got on the save act? What happened this week?
So, just to give I think people are generally familiar with what the SAVE Act is. It will require proof of citizenship to be able to vote, requiring photo ID, and it will have to be real ID. It can't be a driver's license because many blue states give driver's licenses to non-citizens. So, it can't be used to prove citizenship, unfortunately. And it will also require states to clean up voter rolls and remove non-citizens. Now, back right after Trump took office, he signed an executive order that made significant changes to voter registration, ballot casting, and vote counting, but was blocked in court. So the SAVE Act is basically a way to try to do this legally as opposed to an executive order that is being held up through the courts, and activist judges will do what they do. So if it was passed as straight legislation, the problem is they're going to need 60 votes to pass it. And even people like Fetterman, who are sometimes moderate, are not on board with it. So Republicans have been trying to attach it to other pieces of legislation. And this is the second time they've done this, and it got killed in a 48-50 vote. But surprisingly, and maybe not so surprisingly given who the Republicans are, Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, and Susan Collins all voted against it. Now, one thing that is good is that Tillis and McConnell are going to be retiring effective next year, meaning that's two Republican, it was a 2-vote margin it did not pass by, assuming it was a tie-breaking vote, meaning if they do try this again next year, it actually is possible the SAVE Act finally will get passed through some sort of backdoor method. Now,
through a HelloFresh method, you said.
Through a HelloFresh method. So I was looking, through the explanations for why are these Republicans against it. Lisa Murkowski claims it will disenfranchise her constituents, and
which constituents, Lisa?
That's what I'm wondering, because the argument against voter ID has long been, well, it'll disenfranchise black people, but black people support photo ID by 75%. By about 75%. So they clearly don't buy that narrative. And you've even seen with the SAVE Act, there's been a shift in the rhetoric where the left is now claiming, actually, it'll disenfranchise married women because they've
and
changed
trannies.
their
Don't forget trannies.
I forgot about trannies, but they're 0.3% of the population. Married women, obviously, more. But we know they don't believe that because married women, who do they overwhelmingly vote for? Republicans.
Yeah.
So if you really were concerned about
overwhelmingly
married
relative to single women, they're like 55, 45.
Yeah, okay, I shouldn't say overwhelmingly, but it's a double-digit amount, I believe. So
something like that.
If they really were concerned about married women being disenfranchised, well, it would actually work in their favor if that was the case. So they're fear-mongering about something I don't think they even believe in. But Lisa Murkowski claims she otherwise supports voter ID. So I'm not sure
when is she
going to
propose the bill that just cleans
Correct.
up like whatever fear about you're changing your name because of marriage is in there?
Correct.
Yeah, it's not
now, Mitch McConnell, his excuse was it'll be a federal takeover of elections, and then Collins echoed similar rhetoric. I couldn't.
But but it deals with federal elections. That's the thing. Like I share concern about expanding federal power, but shouldn't the federal government have some say in who is qualified to vote in federal elections?
Yes. And then also things like with California, like there need to be certain standards where, like, I get that the state that builds bridges to nowhere can't also count votes, but there needs to be some sort of accountability there. And then with Tom Tillis, and I mentioned this earlier, he co-sponsored the SAVE Act that he just voted against. So I think this is just a middle finger to Trump from him, and they've been feuding quite a bit if you type their name into Google.
And I want to clarify my prior commentary there too a little bit about the federal government having a say. Of course, I want states to be primary in deciding their representation and all that. What we're talking about here is a unique thing, though, where it's foreign invaders who have no legal right to vote. What they're you can decide whether it's common or not, depending on your source. And I know you've got one here that says non-citizen voting is maybe more common than advertised. But we're not talking about like questions like how should felons be treated, or how should certain qualifications that states might disagree on be treated. We're talking about, are you a person who is a citizen of the United States of America or not? This is not like some edge judgment that the states ought to have authority on. This is by its nature a federal. Who's in the country is inherently a federal question.
Correct. So the big takeaway from this, though, is what good is Congress if it can't pass legislation that has supermajority support? In that, and I have it right there. So Pew Research Center says 83% of all Americans, including majorities of Democrats, independents, whites, blacks, and Latinos, favor voter ID. Gallup has similar numbers, 84%, and even 67% of Democrats on board, which is a supermajority. And then Rasmussen had it at 75%, which I was actually surprised by because they're often accused of right-wing bias. But either way, this is an 80-20 issue at least. It's very hard to get, even 55% of people in this country to agree on everything. This is something that pretty much everyone supports, and yet they can't pass it. And, what exactly are they cleaning up? So there's a good small think tank I read called Just Facts, and they have they have an enormous amount of research on really any topic you could ever want to look at. Like they have a whole site just on gun stats, and it's like hundreds of pages of just facts and facts and facts against gun control. You can scroll through if you want to kill time one day, but they do really good research. I actually know the guy who runs it, but a year or 2 years ago, he did a review of what are some studies on non-citizen voting, people being registered to vote, and he found that it could be that up to a quarter of non-citizens were likely to be able to vote, and about 6% of them actually had voted. Now this
is a pretty big qualifier there, so I wonder what exactly he means. But
correct, but the thing is, even if it's 1% or 2%, that is enough to move an election, and assuming they vote in one direction.
Yeah. Well, and even one guy doing it is a problem. That's a legal problem that has to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that's it does show it is a real problem, and we lack a way to really check citizenship when people do register to vote in that. And I think I shared this story. It was a case the DHS had me review, or I was reviewing as part of my training when I started working there. There was someone applying for citizenship who admitted to an immigration officer during their interview that he had illegally voted. Now, how did he illegally vote? He was on a college campus. He was a college student. They had a voter registration booth. He put down his name and either his dorm or his off-campus housing as his address. He was registered to vote, and he voted. It's that simple. He didn't have to steal someone's identity and impersonate them, although that's obviously another way someone could do it. And the thing is, too, even if he had a photo ID, like in that case, it would have worked because there was no cross-referencing when he registered to vote. So the system is massively susceptible to fraud. And the liberal counter-argument is, well, in a given year, there's only 30 cases prosecuted for illegally voting. Okay, in New York City, how many cases of jaywalking do you think are prosecuted annually versus how many people jaywalk in a year?
Yeah, and I don't care if 0 murders are prosecuted in a year. Murder laws belong on the books as a matter of justice.
Or even in places like San Francisco, places where you can walk into a store, steal something, walk out, and the security guard won't do anything. Paradoxically, in cities like that with very far left DAs, on paper, the shoplifting rate is actually very low because there's no point in reporting it because nothing happens. So the fact that we don't have documentation in the fact of it being prosecuted really to me means nothing because there's never really been an effort to clean up the voter rolls. And as we see here, there's quite a lot of opposition to it. It's 100% opposition from Democrats. Well, why would that be? Perhaps it's going to show something.
Well, we'll have to wait till another legislative session to see if this very popular bill can somehow make its way through the hive of scum and villainy that is Congress. All right. Anything else you want to add to this before we move on to some Super Chat?
Nope. I'm getting those queued up. Oh, I forgot to log in. I'm sorry.
Oh, well.
No, it's...
I can pull it up here. I'm going to start over on Rumble because I got that open right in front of me. Yakko says, I work at a meat processing facility, and the consensus was that the cattle numbers were going to stabilize by next year. Now a flesh-eating screwworm is a threat. I wonder if it's deliberate at this point. I didn't know that cattle numbers were a problem. I know that beef prices have gone kind of crazy. I thought a lot of that had to do with tariffs and other trade stuff, but I didn't know that our domestic supply is maybe an issue. That's news to me. Have you heard of anything about that?
Yeah, there's some virus or something going around that's affecting it. I was asked about this in another show, and my answer was, with the hantavirus, my strategy was, I'll pretend it doesn't exist and it'll go away.
And it did.
And it did. So this whole thing just doesn't exist. Manifest it. Doesn't exist.
Although it's hard to pretend if you pay, whatever you're paying for a burger or a steak these days.
Well, that's the challenge of it.
Every once in a while we consider taking the family out to fast food. Like last night we were thinking about doing that. And I don't do it. But that's the thing. I went to the store and I bought burgers and fries and stuff. We cooked them all at home, and it's not that was cheap. But if I know that if I'm going to McDonald's or Wendy's or wherever, and it's like $50 for 2 adults and 3 kids, I would rather take the $50, buy the stuff, grill it at my house for something that's going to be at least as good, probably better, and I'll get like maybe 3 meals out of it instead of 1. So I'm kind of out on all that. But
one thing. McDonald's, I know this is such a fat person thing for me to say, but if you download the app, the prices, I swear to God, are 5 years in the past. So I think the non-app people are subsidizing the app people.
Okay, so I need to get on the app.
There's some good deals in there, yeah. But everything else, Taco Bell was $15 the other day for like...
Taco Bell is the biggest scam.
It's crazy. It used to be, Taco Bell, it used to be so cheap. It was my backup plan if I ever went homeless. It's just, I can just eat here every day. It's like $3.
That's 15 Costco now. Pizzas and hot dogs.
That's Costco.
Yeah. But you got to pay the membership to get in. That's the thing with Costco.
So good.
So... Anyway, Newbie is here, and of course he says, if you read this...
You are gay, LMAO.
Sorry, I took your turn, so why don't you read... You got Friendly Neighborhood Fed?
I'll do the next two. Yeah. So first one from Friendly Neighborhood Fred.
Fed.
I laughed when I saw that there were no black jurors selected for Karmelo Anthony. He's cooked. The only way it could get worse for him would be if Uncle Ruckus was selected. Shame he won't swing through, though. That would
I have
be worse.
to admit disgraceful ignorance. Who is Uncle Ruckus? I don't know the reference. What's the reference?
Oh, from Boondocks. We talked about, he's the black guy who wishes he was...
yeah. Okay. I've not seen the show, but I remember the clips that you've provided me. Okay.
Yeah. The Nazis really should have changed their PR around eugenics. Jews, queers, gypsies, and the disabled just disappeared from greater German society, just like Down syndrome in Ireland.
Iceland.
Oh, Iceland. Sorry.
That's come up on the Wednesday stream.
They're known for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we're going to get into Down syndrome and abortions later. But yeah, they test them all, and it sounds like they abort pretty much all of them in Iceland.
Yeah. Oh, someone corrected me. It's not a virus. It's a parasitic fly that lays its eggs in open wounds, and maggots feed on living tissue. That's horrifying, which is why I'm going to continue pretending it is not real.
Wisdom from the highly regarded Matt Palumbo. Okay, let me refresh over
it was
on
the opposite of wisdom that was corrected. But it was...
Lightning Blue Meanie. Happy I could spend Sunday night with you, gentlemen. Love the show. It grosses me out how many people support OJ Chimpson. Remember, you can't say chimp. You can only say orangutan. Just because he's black. Now, when the OJ Simpson trial happened, I was like 7 or 8. I know you're younger, Matt, but I didn't. Throughout my adulthood, I didn't really pay attention to it. I never went back and looked at a lot of the details of that trial until like the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And when you see not just the facts that O.J. Simpson was excused of, but jurors admitting after the fact we did it as revenge for Rodney King, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Norm Macdonald was talking once about how he was watching like one of the jurors being interviewed after, and the interviewer's like, the DNA evidence has it at like a billion to 1 that he was the killer. How do you explain that? And then the juror goes, "Oh, everyone's got blood, hun." And it's like that's the people you're dealing with. So
oh my God.
It's
and O.J.
retards.
Simpson gets away with murder, and he still can't. Like, he has to go on to steal a bunch of his memorabilia and go to prison anyway, because you got away with murder, but you still have to commit crime because you just can't help yourself.
It's weird that he's not poor, but he commits crimes. Odd. It's all right.
Torek Roma's next.
Roma. Hey, Matt. That could be either of us. It's me, face for radio and voice for print. No colon from me because it's my 2 weeks defending the country. Something Platters truly don't know. Keep doing God's work. I'm sorry, I'm fucking illiterate right now.
I wonder if does he mean he's in like the guard, or what's the nature of the 2
what's
week?
Platters? That's what I got from it. But.
Or I see Platters, but I thought it was Platner, but it's not. Well, later it's The next one is Platner. Anyway. Thank you, Torek Roma, for supporting the show and for your work defending the country. You want to read the next one since it's him too?
Sure. Platner's issues. Nazi, liar, cheater, creep, and weird. Do the Democrats actually want him to win? I know the GOP is kind of cringe, but oof, the Democrats.
I think Democratic forces don't want him. The one thing I forgot to mention in my analysis there was Maine is crucially important too. Because if the Democrats have any chance of flipping the Senate, which is already a long shot, they pretty much have to have Maine. You have some other states that are possible for them. The next most likely would be like Ohio, North Carolina, Iowa, maybe Montana.
They might
None
lose
of those
Michigan,
are likely, and they need 4 because 3 would not be enough because of J.D. Vance's tie-breaking vote.
And then,
Maine they got to have if they have a remote chance at all.
And then Michigan is another big one too. And that Alyssa Slotkin, when she ran against Mike Rogers,
that's right. They have to hold all theirs.
Yeah. So in 2024, Mike Rogers got, I think, 120,000 fewer votes than Trump got on the same ballot. Alyssa Slotkin got 19,000 or so fewer than Harris got. And her entire margin of victory was due to Trump supporters just not voting in that election. So there was, as I said, 120,000 Trump supporters voted for Trump, did not vote in the Senate race. That was the deciding factor in that Senate race. So that's how razor close these are going to be. And their nominee, the likely guy, is like Abdul Al-Ahmed or some shit. So it's not, who wants to vote for that?
Thank you, Torek. We got one more. You want to take the last one from Torek, and I'll grab the last 2 and finish up.
Torek, Fetterman is the only Demo I'd ever vote for. It's messed up that the best Democrat has brain damage. It seems like it's going to be required soon. His approval is higher among Republicans now than the McCormick's the other Republican, right, in Pennsylvania, right?
The other senator.
Fetterman's approval is higher among Republicans than the Republican senator in Pennsylvania, which
that's
shows
just based on his Fox News appearances, not based on his voting record.
Yeah, it's just dumb. But
all right, thank you, Torek. Producer Tim, when Noodle recognized on election night that she couldn't advance, it's reasonable for us to question how she did. And I don't know exactly what she said, so I need to go back and listen. The biggest red flag was betting markets swinging wildly toward Noodle when she was massively behind Pratt. How did they know? Well, someone always knows, don't they? That's, there's a lot of insider information making a lot of money on these betting markets. I remember talking to Peter Schweitzer about that earlier a few months ago. Andrew Jackman, rapper name Fours Kin.
Nice.
I don't actually get that one. Fours. I get foreskin, but why Fours Kin? Why not just foreskin?
Make him pay money to explain the joke.
I guess it's for FOUR, like the number, apostrophe S. Possessive for Fours Kin. Maybe it's just kind of a different way of saying foreskin because he looks kind of, he does look sort of penis-like. This is the unfortunate effect for bald men, and I know that I'm going to have to wrestle with this for the rest of my life. It's like Mark Kelly, too, or anybody who does the Mr. Clean thing. There's no way to do the Mr. Clean thing without looking pretty penis-y. You have to have some fur on your face somewhere. So I try to compensate with, with the half-assed beard. But if I gain the courage to shave cleanly one of these days, I'm going to look like John. I'll grow a bulge out of the back of my neck because I'll be so Fetterman-like. And I'm quite honestly, I'm afraid to do it. I'm afraid to go Mr. Clean because I see every Mr. Clean man and I'm like, that. You can't do that. You have to have at least a half-assed beard.
We got one more on Rumble from Ginger Ninja.
Okay, let's do that one.
As a voter for the MAGA administration and a hater of the MEGA administration, meaning Make Israel Great Again.
Right. Current Trump versus what Trump was supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm not too thrilled right now, to be honest. I'm so glad. Anyway, quoting him again. I'm so glad to be wrong. This is definitely not a forever war, and things don't continue to... And things don't continue to head more into a recession, but a depression.
It is. I know there's current news that Iran sent missiles at Israel earlier today, apparently.
I think he's being sarcastic. This is a fucking disaster.
No, he totally is. Of course he is.
Yeah,
I'm saying there's reason to be a little bit... It's not just the general state of what is not a war and doesn't count as a war stretching now.
It's a war.
Remember, it was supposed to be 4 to 6 weeks, and now we're on, day 100? It's been like 3 months.
Yeah.
And obviously, I want the best outcome. I think Ginger Ninja does too. You can be critical and still want a good outcome.
Yeah.
But man, and the deal's coming any day. They're just... It's frustrating. We've heard that Iran has no cards and the deal is coming any day. No, Iran's card is delay forever.
Yeah.
Delay forever because they know that there will be political pressure applied.
Yeah.
So now we've ended up in the exact situation you never want, which is half-assing it. What I mean by that is you're not actually going in for the kill shot and you're not leaving them alone. You're doing this kind of half in, half out, foot in the door thing that just causes a lot of problems for an indefinite amount of time. Despite the claims that Iran is ready to sign a deal, we've been hearing this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I haven't seen any indicator that that's true other than the president's Truth Social account. I hope it's true. I want it to be true.
We have to sit down at the table and be like, hey, so sorry I killed your dad, but let's talk.
He was going to throw you off a roof anyway for being gay, so you have a friend in us now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hate to agree with pessimism, but pessimism can be right, and I can't. What is Ginger Ninja wrong about here? I hope
it's a disaster.
Everybody's wrong next week, but I've been hoping for weeks now.
I mean, when this first started, obviously my tune was different, as people will remember, because Trump has had so many just these like one-off strikes and things that were successful where everyone was saying, oh my God, it's World War III, and then it was forgotten about in a week. This is obviously quite different, and this is, we have the benefit of hindsight now, but this whole thing is a total disaster. I don't exactly understand what we've gained from it. If someone's living paycheck to paycheck, I don't really get how they're affording gas at this point. It's just horrible. Anyway.
I'll have to just circle back with you.
We will end our chat there. We'll come back to chatters at the end of the stream. Before we get to our guest, I forgot to say, hey, have you considered joining the MC Club? Well, you should. Here's why. Hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show by becoming a member of the MC Club. For as little as $1 a month, you will enjoy a series of exclusive perks, including ad-free videos and podcasts, video calls, and a community Discord server with me and other listeners, loot box giveaways with channel merchandise, your name in the credit roll after videos and streams, and much more. But most importantly, you will help keep the Duct Tape production alive and independent from all those sinister forces of control. Join the MC Club at mattchristensenmedia.com/support. Linked in the description. All right, before we get to our guest, Matt, I know you had one item for correction you wanted to clarify.
Oh, yeah, there's just one part where I talked to our guest about Seattle City Council, and I was asking him if there's any sane members on the council. I was giving an ideological breakdown of the council, and I was actually misremembering. I was thinking of the ideology of Portland's city council, not Seattle, so I don't think he even realized when I was saying it anyway, so it doesn't really just change the question or anything, but just if anyone looks it up, I was incorrect in the composition. But
you are fake news. Very fake news.
We appreciate your commitment to accuracy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will get to our guest. Our guest tonight is Seattle radio host Jason Rantz. In covering some Seattle stories recently, I figured it'd be useful to hear from someone who actually still does live there despite all of the insanity. So we'll get to a full state of the city with Jason. Segment's about 27 minutes. We'll see you on the other side.
Stand back and stand by.
Radio host Jason Rantz is our man on the ground outside the nation of CHOP on the DMZ. He joins us tonight. Jason, I see that they've beefed up their border security.
They have, although the city has decided to beef up the border security, not necessarily those who are living within CHOP. We're hearing rumors that there's going to be another march towards West Precinct. This would be another police station that presumably they'd like to either take over or at least use to get their activism out there. So consider this manifest destiny of some kind. They potentially will be on the move and maybe get up some more land.
What percentage of the Chopistani people are sober at any given time?
I don't even know how to begin. I mean, we're not just talking about alcohol, correct? We're talking about other potential substances.
Narcotics.
But I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Welcome back. Our guest tonight is Seattle's voice of sanity, author and host of the Jason Rantz Show, Jason Rantz. Thank you for making time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I am safely about 700 miles down I-90. I'm in Bozeman, Montana. I have followed plenty of Seattle and Portland and Pacific Northwest news in recent years. I found your coverage to be very helpful, so thanks for that.
Thank you.
But for those of us who don't know you, what is the Jason Rantz story and how have you survived in Seattle for so long?
A lot of tears, a lot of therapy, a lot of commiserating. But no, I'm a conservative talk show host and journalist out here in Seattle. I am surrounded by people who disagree with me on pretty much everything, certainly in the media, but obviously also in the city of Seattle, where I actually live and work. There are a lot of people who maybe live on the outskirts. I actually do live in Seattle, and I experience everything that I talk about at the local level. And I like that, being surrounded by people who disagree with me. I am totally okay with defending my positions and exposing people to, thought that they haven't really been exposed to. I find a lot of people here just kind of live in their bubble. And it's important to hear from people who disagree with them or at least want to challenge them. And, it's been certainly working for me. There are a lot of people who check out the radio show, who go to seattlered.com. A lot of them are like hate listeners and hate readers in the market, and I'm totally okay with that.
Well, the latest Seattle story, whoops, wrong button here. Let me fix that. Latest Seattle story I checked in on was neighbors installing these anti-shooting barricades off Aurora Avenue in the north part of the city. And I saw you writing about that incident. So it sounds like the city removed these and put in their own barricades that are not actually sufficient to stop cars. It sounds like the shootings are back, but what's going on with the shootings in the north part of the city?
Yeah, so I'll give just the lay of the land here. For the last several years, this particular part of Seattle, North Seattle, has just been a disaster. If you're looking to score drugs or a prostitute, you go to Aurora Avenue North in North Seattle. It's really easy. It's been like this for a very long time, but it's gotten really bad since COVID. And, over the last 2 years or so, there have been at least 90 shootings in this particular part. And so people are saying they're sick and tired. The most recent shooting before these planters ended up going up, a 6-month-old baby was almost shot by an errant bullet. There was just a live gun battle outside of this person's condo. So the neighbors finally said, you know what, a couple months ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, the city had temporarily closed that block for construction, and they noticed that no one was going down there and shooting things. So they decided to put up these planters, and the city immediately said, you can't keep these planters up. A position, by the way, that I understand. The planters are in the way, ironically, of emergency vehicles that would have to get into that neighborhood should there be a shooting. So rather than actually address the underlying issues here, rather than put more cops to make more arrests and then put pressure on the prosecutor to prosecute and put people in jail, they take these down, they put in place these, they call them traffic calming measures,
I saw that
don't
language,
actually
yeah.
stop, drive-by shootings from occurring. You just have to like zig and zag, I guess. And the day after they took them down, there was another shooting. So, the planters themselves that these residents put up is not going to solve the problem and wouldn't be a long-term solution. But it shows you their desperation, and it shows you that they're just begging for the city to do something, and the city just doesn't want to take anything seriously here. Some of it is just, it goes back to not wanting to criminalize crime, which is a position of the radical left in this city. You've got activists who are very upset that if you were to put police out there, you are going after the prostitutes, the women who are being exploited, there's no doubt. And there was a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, there was this big controversy where the Seattle City Council was railing against the police because they were making arrests, not just of the Johns, but perhaps of the women who were out there selling themselves at the behest of a pimp. I mean, part of the reason why you want to police this area is so you get information on the pimp enough so that you can make an arrest and actually charge. But the city council got in the way of that, and it's kind of been hands off ever since.
Yeah, I don't understand why. The simple solution is just arrest the people participating in this crime. Why do we need street blockades? Why do we have to have all these creative solutions when you just go after the people committing the crime? Clearly, there's demand from the neighbors there. As you say, in the news coverage I've seen, they're saying, hey, we're doing this street blockade stuff because it's either that or, as you said, there's going to be a bullet flying near my children or flying near my neighbors. So it's a weird situation, at least from afar, where there's clearly demand for just old school policing to take care of this problem. And yet the sort of leadership that's elected is committed to not doing that. How do people square this in their minds out there?
Yeah, I mean, usually they just pretend, unless they're experiencing this crime specifically, they'll pretend that it's not that bad, that it's being overstated by conservatives, and that there's just this pro-police bias that I guess is coming from a certain segment of the population, which is just lunacy. The reality is twofold. It's not just a policing problem, but let's start there. We don't have nearly enough police officers in Seattle. We have a little under 900 officers who can currently patrol at any given moment. So not 900 out there right as we speak, but 900 who can actually go out and police. But we are so understaffed to the point that they can't even proactively police. You pull it, let's say one of the scenarios that was proposed is you do some extra patrols in this particular area. That's fine, but you're just pulling them from other communities that also need cops. We need somewhere between 15 and 1,600 officers in this city. And that's going back a few years before we saw any kind of change in our population. That was what the powers that be thought were necessary. And I agree with them. You look at other comparable cities of our size, you need a police force like that. But let's just presume we had all the cops that we needed for this. You can make the arrest, but you still have to charge and you still have to throw people in jail. Mm-hmm. And those are two aspects that in some cases, depending on the crimes that are being committed, the city doesn't have any say in whatsoever, right? If it's a misdemeanor, we go to the Seattle City Attorney's Office, who is just not prosecuting misdemeanors. And that was part of what she ran on, not prosecuting most misdemeanors. But if it's a felony level, it goes to the county. Let's say the county takes it seriously. You then still have to get in front of a judge who's not likely going to take it seriously. We have, like so many other left-wing cities, you have a bunch of people who are just cycling in and out of the criminal justice system. They either get a slap on the wrist or no slap whatsoever. We put them into some diversion program, and they're back out on the streets. I mean, in this particular area, we have something called a SOAP or a SODA, depending on which area we're talking about. But SOAP stands for Stay Out of Area Prostitution. That's a stupid title. But it basically says if you have been arrested and charged for something related to prostitution, a judge can say you can't go back into that general area as a condition of your release prior to a trial. Problem is, the Seattle City Attorney is not enforcing that. So anyone who just happens to get arrested for something tied to prostitution, they can just go back, even if a SOAP order is in place and it's not being prosecuted. So we have some tools that could at least alleviate some of the problems, and they're choosing not to use them.
Well, how do you evaluate new mayor, self-described socialist Katie Wilson? Been on the job about, 5 months now? What's your assessment of the performance?
Yeah, it's not going well. I mean, it's not going well. And it is fair when judging not just a new mayor who has no experience, but a new mayor for a city the size of Seattle. It is fair to say that there's going to be some bumps. There are a lot of bumps, and she is getting in so much trouble because she's making outlandish statements. She's dismissing the concerns of the business community after this income tax was passed at the state level. And she's still acting, I think, as an activist rather than a mayor. And the city is suffering as a result of that.
I saw that she had a reversal on some of her stance on Starbucks. She'd been involved in the labor dispute there, and she had this viral comment when asked about wealth leaving the state or leaving the city. And she said, well, like bye, I guess was her commentary. But
she's not really walking. She kind of walked a part of it back, but not really. She just did another interview in which she was asked whether or not she supported Starbucks. And she did this whole I'm looking off camera to see what my advisors shall tell me. But look, I'm going to drink a Starbucks coffee. She's not handling this well. She's in a little bit of a tough spot, I will say. When you're an activist who gets put into this position, you're looking towards the activist base as to what they want. And you're not really thinking about how to run a city at that point if you're just listening to the activists. And that's where she's caught in between. I do think she wants to do the right thing. She just doesn't know what the right thing to do is politically.
Well, I just have a question too about their city council getting in the way of enforcing the law. Is there any pushback at all within the city council on that? I know the races or the offices are officially nonpartisan, but the breakdown I saw, it's 6 Democrats, 4 Democratic Socialists, and then 2 belong to some progressive faction that identifies themselves, I guess, sort of as a sub-party. Are any of them at all even remotely reasonable on crime, or are they all united in that far left vision?
So you have one who you could reasonably argue is more moderate on crime issues, but he just doesn't do anything. He talks, he'll put out a press release. He doesn't really do anything. But everyone on the council is a Democrat. Everyone is very far to the left, with maybe one exception. We had one truly moderate Democrat who was very pro-business who got booted from office for one of those people who leans into socialism. So we took one step forward and then 13 steps back, and they're just not particularly effective. They're speaking up a little bit more, not to get too in the weeds, but you've got one council member who's clearly running for mayor. He's going to make that announcement in a couple years, and he's now starting to speak up a little bit more. The one moderate, and Bob Kettle, who represents part of Seattle where the World Cup is taking place. The mayor, this got a little bit of national attention, but for the most part it didn't. She turned off our surveillance cameras that were put in place as part of a pilot program specifically to stop potential threats, or at least capture evidence of criminal threats around the World Cup. She shut them down because she claimed that they could be used by the federal government for purposes tied to ICE, or could be used to stop women seeking abortions. No evidence whatsoever that it's even something on the minds of the federal government. So she turns these off and says, I'll turn them back on when we have evidence of a credible threat. Well, the problem, as Bob Kettle points out, there wasn't really any evidence that they were taking seriously in Atlanta for the Olympics when there was a threat, and it would have been awfully great for the investigation if they had camera evidence, surveillance footage evidence. So she's basically saying after a crime is committed, we'll turn on the cameras, which is completely useless. The portion of this pilot program that are currently operational is in this small area of downtown, which was used to be able to capture a 77-year-old man who was brutally beaten by 2 guys completely at random. It was caught on surveillance in real time, and they were able to at least make one of the arrests. One person is still out there. but it does work. Police are sounding the alarms about this. And, at least you've got some council members who are saying it's beyond bizarre to keep them turned off.
I remember that crazy case a year ago. It's if I remember correctly, but an older woman, like a guy just took a board with a screw hanging out of it and whacked her in the eye, and that was caught. I don't know if that's the same system of cameras, but there was video of that looked like surveillance video as well.
Same system, it's in that exact same area where all this crime keeps happening, which is why we've got the cameras up there to begin with. This is a part that has also, especially since COVID, has gotten really bad. It was never great in this particular spot, but it's not been as bad since it has been during COVID. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And I walk near that spot fairly often as I'm picking up my dog from daycare when I bring him, and so I'm like, I have a high bar of feeling uncomfortable, mostly because I cover these events. I'm usually out in the field, or used to be more in the field, going into encampments, and I feel uncomfortable. And so that's like that internal barometer of, okay, things are pretty bad because I'm feeling uncomfortable.
You had a great write-up over at Seattle Red recently on why Seattle liberals put up with this sort of thing and tolerate it. And I want to get into that in a moment, your theory why they do. But before we consider that, I wanted to ask you about the theory that it's not actually people leaving. People aren't being forced out of Seattle, at least not certain demographics, that Seattle and Washington are actually a transgender refuge, that the tolerance and the love and the peace is so attractive that transgender people in oppressive states in the United States, as they consider them, are flocking to Seattle and Washington for refuge, for shelter from these places. And it sounds like this is a claim that's made without evidence. You had to write up on what the evidence supposedly is. What's this about?
Yeah, there is no real evidence. There's like this anecdotal piece of information that was put out by some special interest group out of Texas that claim they've been talking to people who have at least had the conversation about possibly leaving the state because they believe it's too oppressive. Now, do I believe that there are going to be people who are transgender who come to Seattle? Sure. We're a very far left city, and we have a relatively large trans population in the context of already a small population of trans people existing. So I certainly believe that. But there's been no evidence that there's some sort of quote unquote refugee crisis, which the activists have been screaming about. And that's actually something they've been pushing back against Mayor Katie Wilson for not declaring this kind of refugee crisis. She basically said, we're going to do a study and we'll see what we come up with by August. I think ultimately she's going to declare a state of emergency, which all that means is you're just giving more money to special activist groups or advocacy groups on the ground to quote unquote address the crisis. But there is none. There's no evidence to suggest we're getting anything more than we would normally get.
God, that's such a repetitive scam in so many different contexts. Yeah. Manufacture some sort of crisis, declare it an emergency, funnel a bunch of public money into some nonprofit, some organization that's supposed to solve it. Nothing ever happens because the problem didn't really exist in the first place, and a bunch of people collect a bunch of money, and we don't really audit that later.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. It usually happens around homelessness and drug use, except they have an actual crisis that they just make worse.
Well, that was the other thing with Katie Wilson. Excuse me. She had made a pledge to have X amount of homeless shelters ready for the World Cup. Sounds like that didn't go well either.
No. She was supposed to have 500 by the start of this month, and she's got like 75 or something, I think the number is. And now she's saying, well, we lit a fire underneath all these groups, and now they're more interested in doing it. It's like, okay, you want a trophy for lighting a fire on an emergency that's been getting worse over the last decade. Yeah, you haven't even lit any fire.
Was just for optics, so people that were there for the World Cup wouldn't see the homeless people, like how they clean up San Francisco ahead of events, or?
Yeah, so there's two things that I think happened here. Number one, I do think this is part of her naivete, and I would say that of any new mayor coming into a city of this size, thinking that you're just going to be able to get something like that done. Yeah, I said this from the beginning. There was zero chance that she was going to get 500 shelter spaces open by June. Zero. She won't get 500 done by the end of this year, or possibly by the end of her term. Just the way that the process works is incredibly slow, weirdly by design. So she's not going to hit that. But two, she does have to do sweeps. To have the World Cup matches here, there was a basic agreement on what the community outside of the stadiums would look like. She's closing them down to streets, or to cars, which means people are being forced to walk to the stadium or bike to the stadium. And so she had to sweep these encampments. But in Seattle, you can't announce any kind of sweep generally, period, without significant pushback. And she thought she was going to blunt some of that pushback or mitigate some of the threat of the activists by saying, but we're going to have 500 new spaces for them to go. It was always political. It was always for a press release. It failed spectacularly. A huge failure was about 3-ish weeks ago. They announced that for the upteenth time, they installed public bathrooms in the neighborhood outside of the stadium. And we've done this before where we spend literally millions of dollars and they always get destroyed by the homeless.
Yeah.
This time, however, they promised it would not get destroyed. It was destroyed last week.
Well, the implication is that if you're a citizen, a resident of Seattle, walking past the homeless and any drug paraphernalia, that's not a problem to her. But if you're here visiting for the World Cup, well, then it's a problem. So it's just
100%.
incredible priorities there.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask for your thoughts on that topic. You've described Seattle as the most ideologically captured city in the country. And you had this write-up recently on why Seattle liberals accept the sort of conditions you're talking about. So I invite you to answer your own question. What is it about Seattle that leads people to accept this way of living?
So there's a few reasons that I outline in the piece. I think some of it is compassion is a social currency. They've convinced themselves that not sweeping folks is about making sure you're giving help to the people when they're ready. And it's cruel and inhumane to quote unquote, destroy all their personal belongings by cleaning up the garbage. And they like to say that they're compassionate. They wear that on their sleeves while getting nothing done. They live in a world in which some of them have legitimately never heard criticisms of their policies, that housing first, for example, or harm reduction don't actually work. They never heard why it doesn't work. Housing first, as it sounds, put someone in a home, quote unquote, a home first, and then you treat the underlying causes of their homelessness. Except we don't actually do that. We have a housing first model, but there's no rules or regulations around you being forced or pushed into, mental health care treatment or drug treatment as a condition of getting the free housing. It's just permanent supportive housing. They do this in Los Angeles as well, and it's been an utter failure. Harm reduction is just, quote unquote, reducing the harm of illicit substance abuse for the addicts. And it used to be pitched as a way to get people into treatment. And instead, now it's just to give people fentanyl pipes because it's technically safer for them to use a clean pipe that's not shared or a clean needle that's not shared than otherwise, which, I mean, technically that is true, but it's also not getting people into treatment and it's not curing this disease. And people have never heard any of the pushback because we live in such a sort of ideologically isolated or ideologically captured city. I think others, they do know that they're responsible for the plight and it's getting worse, but no one wants to raise their hand and say, my bad, I did this. I'm responsible for the increase in homeless deaths and overdose deaths that we've seen. They feel deep guilt, and so they've convinced themselves that it's not really something that they did. They know it is, but they don't want to say it out loud.
Well, that's a very interesting because it raises the question of how bad would things have to get before people would experience the sort of things you're talking about. One, maybe they haven't encountered the counter arguments. The counter arguments would probably or will probably surface the worse things get. And the worse things get, the more likely, hopefully, people are to consider their own role or how their own ideology has played a part in making that happen. How bad do you think it has to get in Seattle before either of those things would happen? No idea?
I have no clue anymore because I've said, hey, I think it's gotten so bad that people will finally wake up and see what's going on. And I've been wrong multiple times. I mean, you've got a competing issue here. The only ones who are really pushing back at what's happening on the ground are conservatives. There are like 17 of us. I am very loud, but there's only so much. And because we're so ideologically captured, there's no one who's on the far left who would want to be seen as acknowledging a conservative might have a good idea or a valid criticism. Then you've got the people who completely dismiss everything that I say and other conservatives say, and they say that it's been made up. The whole crisis is contrived. It's not nearly as bad as you're being told on Fox News or SeattleRed.com, that it's just made up. And I've done lots of work with video evidence showing how bad things are. and I've been told I'm making it up. Like literally, I'm just making it up. It's like, but I don't know how to do CGI. I'm not. I know AI is amazing.
It is pretty good now, yeah.
But when I was initially at least putting out the videos, like this is not AI. This is not Grok making it. This is what we are actually seeing, and they just don't want to admit that a conservative could be bringing up a good point. So, I'm not. As much as I think I'm a good messenger on all of this, I'm not going to be believed by the vast majority of the ideologically captured in Seattle. And unless there's some Democrat, and not even a moderate, just any kind of Democrat who steps forward and points this out, it's just not going to change anything.
Well, toughest question for last. In all your years in Seattle, is there anything that's better now than it was previously? Or is there a reason for optimism? Can we have some silver lining to close? Is there a such thing?
Well, I would have answered last year in saying things are clearly going in the right direction. It's just very, very slow that we've started to see an increase in police hiring. A lot of the crazies were booted from the council, and we have someone who is, at the time, slightly more moderate in the mayor's office. And so I would have probably said, yeah, we're slow go, but we're headed in the right direction. But we just took another huge step back with the election of a socialist, not just in the mayor's office, but also the council. And we're just not seeing progress. Could that change? I always hope that things will change. And I think, that there's always the possibility that people finally wake up. I think what's happening at the state level, where they just instituted an income tax, they just passed the bill, which is clearly unconstitutional. And it's now going to be subject to an initiative to get rid of it. That has garnered a lot of attention from folks on the left. This is not just conservatives who are signing this initiative. It's not just conservative business owners who are saying we are leaving as a result of this. So I think that has woken up a lot of people outside of Seattle. So at least some of the surrounding areas of Seattle might get a little bit better. Tough for me because, again, like I said, I actually live here in Seattle and I have to experience all of this. Maybe cost of living will start to dip a little bit because of all of these downsides of living here, but we have
property
not
will
yet
be
seen
cheap.
that.
Yeah,
we have not yet seen that.
Well, that's our guest, Jason Rantz. You can find all of Jason's work at seattlered.com. You can follow Jason on X at Jason Rantz. Both are linked in the description for you. Jason, is there anything else you'd like to promote?
If you want to subscribe to the podcast, go for it. Just look up Jason Rantz wherever you get your podcast. And obviously, if you're in Western Washington, you can listen to me live on the radio afternoons.
Well, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks.
Stand back and stand by.
Thanks again to our guest, Jason Rantz. Find all his work at seattlered.com. Follow him on X at Jason Rantz, linked in the description. Any other Seattle-related observations you would like to make? Oh, yeah, your microphone is a necessary piece of this show.
Yeah, it would help a bit. No, nothing like that. But I made sure to wear the same shirt so it almost looks like it wasn't pre-recorded.
Ah.
Yeah.
I need to coordinate better. Yeah, I need to coordinate the shirts so that we can pass it off as live when we do these things. Or as you mentioned previously, the hopefully infrequent misperception that for some reason I change shirts mid-show and then change back. Anyway.
I mean, that's what it looks like now because I'm wearing the same. But
yeah. Okay. I see. You actually did wear the same shirt.
Yeah, same shirt.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood what you're saying. Okay. So was this intentional or incidental? Do you have like 5 shirts or did you strategize?
I have 5 shirts, and it was intentional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank
both
you
things are
for thinking of the show when deciding on your wardrobe.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I want to get into the major controversy and scandal of many layers this week, at least on the internet. But this is a major moral scandal, too, beyond just what the internet has to say about it. There's a YouTuber named Jesse Ridgway. And prior to this, I've never actually heard of Jesse Ridgway.
Neither.
He does have a very big channel, 4 million subscribers. It's not the arena of YouTube in which I hang out, I guess. But he and his wife, Ashley, announced that they have recently aborted their, I'm not sure how, I thought the baby was 21 weeks old. I might be wrong on that.
That's what I saw as well. And
okay,
Yeah,
I think he
20
posted
plus. It was 20 plus. It was more than 20 was what I remember. 20 to 20 something.
Okay. Anyway, they were mid-pregnancy. They aborted their child because, according to genetic testing, that child had a high chance of Down syndrome. And they have been absolutely savaged on the internet all week, and rightly and understandably so. They killed their son, and they posted publicly about it, okay? We're going to get through those main points. But I do think beyond the pile-on, which, again, I think is deserved, I think there are a lot of very practical lessons through this story that people can learn, and these would be good things to learn from what is a terrible story so that this sort of thing is not repeated, or at least is repeated as minimally as possible, because it is crazy how comfortable we are with the fact that this guy thinks this is a normal thing to do is very concerning for the state of our society.
It was so out there that I was even seeing people comment like, I'm pro-choice, but I'm getting Nazi vibes from this. And I'm thinking, okay, so you're fine with a woman who hooks up with a guy at a party having an abortion for convenience, but you're drawing the line here. It was just weird to see where certain people draw the line. And I've seen there are certain people taking the opposite perspective of this is the only time it's okay to have an abortion. But I think what turns a lot of people off is the fact that it was made public for content. Like, this is something that's
a big piece of it.
At a bare minimum, we shouldn't know about. And I think we're going to go down this route too, that there is a potential, and I'm not saying I'm decided on this, but it is potential. There is potential this is made up entirely, and we'll go into that.
We'll talk about that
road.
last.
Yeah,
but let's get through the story first. So Jesse Ridgway, again, he's this YouTuber with 4 million subscribers. From what I gather, it's lifestyle stuff. It's not political. I've watched almost none of it except for the stuff related to this recent abortion. But Jesse married his wife Ashley in October, so they're a newlywed couple, or at least a relatively new marriage. And they announced their pregnancy publicly on March 29th.
Hey there, Joey, it's Joel Palmachance here, and we're having a baby! Yay! Crazy, we just got married, it feels like.
Okay, and then a month later, on April 22nd, Jesse got the results of some genetic testing on the baby to determine gender and any potential abnormalities. And so he learns that it's a boy, and that according to testing, actually he passed it off to his brother, who was going to give him the news, but his brother reads it first, tells Jesse before his wife is informed. But as you mentioned, this was made into content. So brother sees the test results first, tells Jesse, hey, it's a baby boy, congratulations, but this also says high chance of Down syndrome, just so you know. So Jesse and the rest of the family reveal these things to his wife, and there are several notable things about this exchange, but here was that moment.
The hell is that? Yo, hey! Yeah!
It's a boy?
I think so. All right, we can like really react. Yeah, Jeffrey said.
So this is 1 month.
Maybe you could speak to this, but there's the Down syndrome chance.
Yeah, I'll explain more after. Yeah.
For the baby, but it's like 95 out of 100% chance. Again, like even the gender stuff on these Natera tests, they say it's 99%, but if you actually read testimonials, it's not. Like there's a lot of people that it's completely the opposite gender. All this could be just. We don't know, and then everything's fine. Because weren't you saying I was supposed to have Down syndrome?
Well, they were just, that wasn't because of any marker. That was
so
only
these are his
because
parents.
Of your femur and relationship to the size of your head. And they said that sometimes, I guess, back then was a sign.
Okay, so all we can do is just hope for a miracle at this point. Heart emoji.
So,
okay. You were saying what? What was your question?
I had seen some people claim that video was close to the 20 weeks into their pregnancy, which I guess would be an odd time to do a gender reveal. But people were claiming it was that far.
That was April 22nd, the date on that video. And I don't know the conception date for this child, but...
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right, but I was going to say, if it really was 20 weeks in, well, she doesn't look pregnant there, which was part of why I was suspicious of...
well, if they're saying about 20
but it's
as of a
what I read
week or
was
two ago, it would have made it, what, and a month prior to that, a month. So that would have put it at maybe 15 weeks.
Okay.
The approximate date of that, but that's guesswork. I don't know for sure.
Well, it's a different
okay.
that, but.
So several things that are important to note about that clip. that very short clip that we just saw. Number one, revealing not just the gender of the child, but important health information about this baby to your wife on camera, and then posting that as internet content. Not cool, in my opinion. Even if she's on board, okay? That is a baby. This is a serious life update. This is now a monetized show for other people, primarily.
But the order of presentation, it's a boy. Oh, by the way, 95 out of 100 times Down syndrome. It was just a bizarre way of... I don't know. It's just so. I mean, these are. I don't know. All these like viral YouTubers are psychopaths. So maybe I'm reading too much into this. But it was just a bizarre way to present that information. I mean, I suspect he had already known the results before recording, even if
he did not
otherwise.
Actually, according to the way he explained it in the video.
I know he said that, but I don't know if I buy it. Is my point. I don't know. It was just very weird, and she does. I mean, she doesn't look pregnant at all.
So you're deep down this fake.
I don't know. Like, listen,
hole.
if it really okay. So I was Googling as.
Hold on. Let's take this at face value before we go that way. Okay. All right. We will give that its proper consideration at the end here. But number two.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one is making content of what is very important health news for your family. All right. Questionable choice number one. Questionable choice number two, or just what would ultimately become a questionable choice. Listen to the family processing that news there, including Jesse himself. You understand the risk of Down syndrome, but they also understand that the tests are not always correct. And how does that video close? We hope for a miracle for this baby in the end. Okay, then that understanding, I guess, changed over the course of a month or so. Another month later, at the end of May, they get results from some additional testing. And again, this testing shows trisomy 21, as in a third chromosome at position 21, otherwise known as Down syndrome. And they get these results. Ashley Ridgway cries. And again, this is a monetized moment on a YouTube channel.
Facial features, the bones, that NT looked normal, was within normal range. So we were like pretty happy about that. We did the amniocentesis just a couple days ago. They stuck a big needle right into one side and the baby actually rolled over into the needle. It was terrifying. This ultrasound, everything looked normal. Everything looked healthy.
They said everything looked normal. That's just not us just saying it.
Yes.
They said everything looked normal.
Also, one of the nurses said they have been seeing a handful of false positives from these tests. So there's another.
Are you ready?
I guess this is where we're doing it. Pattern consistent with trisomy 21.
Okay, so they're hearing from the people giving them this information. While there are a lot of false positives, they're hearing from the ultrasound that the baby actually looks normal. We know that these things are not 100% accurate. This is that video was taken, or posted at least, something like 11 or 12 days ago, about 2 weeks. Then comes the tweet announcement on Wednesday. Jesse Ridgway, with a lengthy tweet, says he and his wife have terminated the pregnancy. He says this decision was not made lightly, and he signed up to be a parent. That's true, no matter the outcome, but I guess it does matter the outcome. He researched Down syndrome, and he learned many supposed truths, supposed facts. 50% of these babies will have heart defects. 75% will have hearing challenges. 50% will have vision problems or other complications. The miscarriage risk is 50%. In fact, he was so worried about these health complications. He said he told the New York Post he didn't want to have to bury his son someday.
Well, you just did.
Yeah, but they don't see it that way. Like he might possibly die because of health complications, so we better kill him first. My wife might have a miscarriage, so we better kill him first.
Yeah.
And understandably, and again, you read this long tweet. Thank you for understanding with a heart. Okay. People did not understand, and there was significant backlash to this post. You can read thousands upon thousands of replies to it. And in response to what, is there some meanness? Is there some vulgarity? Are there probably threats even? There are. But fundamentally, this is responding to the termination of a child's life, an unborn child's life, which they refer to as an unborn child in another tweet. Like, this is the child that was not given the opportunity to be born because of a decision that was made. You can talk about how people are mean or vulgar or whatever else. It doesn't get around that fundamental principle. But Jesse doubles down with another long tweet a day later, saying that he and his wife have been subjected to a deeply disturbing side of humanity. They've been called evil murderers and threatened. And it's all the replies in response to his tweet that are depraved, not the act of murdering their son. So he says it's especially troubling that people are using God or Jesus as a basis for their opinions, as though, God and Jesus love abortions and would give a big thumbs up to aborting a possible Down syndrome baby. But most preposterously, he says to those who are telling him, well, I would have kept the kid, he says, good for you. You can do that. That's great. You can do all those things, which of course is not the way that murder works. Okay. Yeah. It does nothing for the murder victim. Oh, you don't like murder? Well, don't commit a murder. Well, no, murder is an inherent wrong and the victim deserves justice. And then he calls, what's the other thing in here? He calls a lot of his harshest critics trashy ass. I can't believe so many trashy ass people have significant followings. Okay. So mirrors should be consulted, probably. Long story short, they killed their kid, but what's troubling is people's reaction to them killing their kid. He asks why a couple getting an abortion in 2026 is even news. Well, because you made it, dummy.
Idiot. God, what a dumbass.
But we're the trashy asses, so guilty as charged. The couple then appears on TMZ to play the victim further.
It's not
we felt we still needed to be transparent with our audience, and then it's taken on a life of its own outside of our bubble.
And I feel like sharing what we have, thus far is something I will never regret. I don't regret, sharing our truth and our journey to starting a family. This is such a common thing that happens, and I feel like if you were a fly on the wall with anybody receiving any type of news like this, that we reacted the same as everyone else. We just decided to share it.
With the death threats and everything, it has been shocking. Close people to us, very judgmental, religious based, saying we're going to burn in hell. We deserve to die.
I don't deserve to be a mother because of, the decision that we just made.
We've seen the darkest side of humanity through this process. We'd never imagined confronting having a child with Down syndrome. You don't think it'll happen to you, and then it does, and you like to think you know what you do in that situation, just given the information that you know, but there was so much that we were unaware of and how hard it was.
Okay, I have a lot to say about that segment. So, Matt, if you have something to say, I'm going to offer you the floor first, because I'm going to go on and on and on about that one.
I mean, I will say he is correct in that, you actually don't know how you would react until you are in the situation. It's just...
Disagree.
Well, I'm just saying for the overwhelming majority of people, like you might think you'd behave. Yeah,
they're trashy ass.
I'm not disagreeing with
right.
I just mean like there is a certain percentage of people that are condemning them that if they were in the situation probably would change their tune. And the reason I say that is because we know the stats that I think it's 80 or 90% of babies that have Down syndrome are aborted. That's a far greater percentage than the share of the population that identifies as pro-choice. I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm just saying, he is right. There probably are some hypocrites throwing stones at them, but he's still a trashy ass. He's still in the wrong. But there are hypocrites attacking him, I guess.
Speaking of fake, I wonder if those stats are even true and where they come from.
The problem is it would have to be from polling data. It's not like there's an actual directory keeping track of that. So
now I don't care what that lady says about not regretting implicitly the abortion, but explicitly she's talking about, I will never regret sharing our truth in public in this way. Oh, won't you though? You will, as a matter of fact, you will be haunted by this decision for the rest of your life. You will wonder who that son was and why you made the decision to eliminate him from this world. And beyond that, you will always wonder why you made that a matter of other people's business, indeed self-promotion or possibly income or whatever your motives were. When you say you have no regrets, nobody believes that, and everybody knows that's not true. Yeah. Okay, so that's point one. Point two, when she says, people say I don't deserve to be a mother. Well, if you don't protect your children, you kind of don't deserve to be a mother, or you're doing a very bad job. That's what being a mother means. It means protecting your children above anything, above everything. You broke rule 1 intentionally, and you're going to have to grapple with that. They complain about the darkest side of humanity. The darkest side of humanity is not people being mean to you on the internet, although that does suck sometimes. Been there many times. The darkest side of humanity is something close to murdering an innocent baby. That would be a pretty dark side of humanity, which you just did by your own decision making. And to your point, nobody can ever say what they would do until it happens to them. All right, I dismiss that point. I'm kind of half joking, half serious. Mm-hmm. When I say disagree, I mean, when I became a father, it was very clear to me there is nothing any doctor could ever say to me that would get me to abandon or kill my children. However, I had also thought about this a lot before I had made the decision to become a parent, to become a father. Mm-hmm. And so the lessons that need to be taken away from this are for everybody to do that sort of thinking, so that if this moment does confront you, you are not scrambling. You are not trying to you're not Googling like Jesse trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong here, because you know the moral truth, because you've thought about this at length. That's why we all have to think critically about these things before we're put in position to get this so catastrophically wrong. That moment, the moment that they were in, which the moment I can sympathize with, it would be devastating news. It'd be very difficult. And I would have to think hard about how I would manage this. How am I going to manage my resources? What about my other kids? What is the life of my wife and I going to be like in the future? How are we going to get through this? You have to confront that moment with moral clarity, moral truth. You can't be scrambling to think what the right thing to do is in that moment, because it's very stressful already. And that's why I want to talk about these principles, these practical principles that we should all learn from this incident that don't really have anything to do with dunking on these people and calling them trashy asses on X, even though I think a lot of that is deserved. Now, most importantly, and most obviously, I think, the core of this scandal, human life is valuable according to what? It is valuable according to God-given value, according to value assigned to it, given to it by its creator, not value that we determine, not value that we judge or say, well, I think that life is worthwhile, but this one isn't. The creator of that life gave it value, not you, and it has the same value to that creator and that creator's purpose, whether it is a perfectly healthy child or whether it is a child with very serious health problems. You must be clear on that point before you make the decision to become a parent or engage in the sort of activities that could lead you to become a parent, because that is the natural consequence. Your job, your moral obligation, is to protect that life according to God's value for it, not according to your own convenience. They are making a judgment that is according to their own convenience, not according to the value that God has given that unique life. And if you don't, a lot of people are turned off by religious language. All right. When I say God in this context, yes, I am a person of Christian faith. Yes, I mean it in that context. But if you're not, I mean it in the context of whatever created the life as we understand it. Unless you believe that it was all one big coincidence and there are no moral implications to, or no moral meaning to life at all, in which case there's no problem with murder. If life has no inherent value, just shoot your neighbor in the face and there's no problem with it. If life does have inherent value, the question is from what? And it comes from the origin, the creator of that life. That's what I mean when I use the word God that many don't like in this context.
I guess sorry, go. I'll let you finish.
I have like a million more things to say. You can't interrupt me now. Okay.
Sorry. Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. You're retracting. All right. Keep your point. Because I don't want to cost you.
I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
Many things to say about this being fake.
I have literally one thing to say. It was a dumb throwaway joke.
In all seriousness, do you want to? Oh, okay. If you want to offer it now, that's fine.
I was going to say, like, at least on the bright side, this kid doesn't have to have two retards for parents. So
bingo.
That's a plus, you know.
Who's the real retard here?
The kid would have been the least retarded person in that family.
Well,
anyway,
okay.
I'll let you continue.
That is the only moral truth that matters. Again, what is the source of the value of that life? Is there something inherent about the value of that life, something God-given, or is it just whatever we decide? If I decide it has value, then it has value. Okay. Without that, a proper understanding in that moral calculation, any other argument in favor of what they're doing, it falls apart. And that's why their arguments sound so ridiculous. They constantly make this appeal to what you were talking about, commonality, as though commonality is morality. They repeat in several different contexts the exact stats that you described. Something like 90% of couples, parents who get this news about their child end up deciding on abortion. Number one, I don't know if that's true. Maybe it is. Number two, even if that is true, the fact that some people do something even in large volume does not make it right. If I kill a person and at trial, my defense is, well, there's like 1,000 other murders that happen. What's the big deal with this one?
No, my defense.
Every single one is an injustice that matters for its own sake and must be brought to justice. This is really that defense of 90% of people do it. It's just a dressed up, science appealing version of saying, if of your mom's question, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? No, you would not, because there's something wrong with jumping off the bridge, no matter how many people do it.
I didn't mean to imply that it was okay because 90% did it. I was just mean because he was saying, there are people that don't know what they would do in the situation, and I was like, well, I'll grant you that, given the fact that it does unfortunately seem to be very common. But that's just the context I meant.
I know that you're not justifying. I'm just bringing it up because you had referenced it. That's all. Yeah. So the fact that a certain behavior is common doesn't make it right. We have to be very keen on that as well. I mentioned this point earlier, but I want to emphasize it a little bit more. Being a parent means putting your child and your child's interest first, or at least above yours, always. When you make the commitment to becoming a parent, which is more than just the decision of, I'm going to become a parent today. Again, it's participating in the behavior, that sexual act that itself carries the inherent possibility of becoming a parent. You are committing your life to the protection and advancement of that life, again, according to its inherent value, independent of you. Jesse Ridgway, when he says, well, this isn't what I signed up for because I Googled what Down syndrome means. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Just like you take a vow to your wife in sickness and in health, you owe protection to every life that you create. From this day forward, after you become a parent, and yes, I do mean that from the moment of conception for that life, every decision that you make for the rest of your life will be forever changed. It must be considered in a new framework. What is best for your son? What is best for your daughter? Not what is best or most convenient for me as a parent. It's exactly what you sign up for in marriage. It's exactly what you sign up for when that relationship, by its nature, creates new life. And then there's the whole concept of the genetic testing, which, in my opinion, it's not only that it's flawed, it's that it's kind of a scam. And I say this with particular emphasis for first-time parents. If your experience is like mine, when you go to the doctor, you go to whatever healthcare setting you do with a new pregnancy, these healthcare professionals, they're going to advise you to get this genetic testing. And as I've mentioned before, the doctor in our case advised us to get this sort of genetic testing to, quote, inform our decisions. And I remember scoffing in my own mind, like, I don't know what you're talking about, lady. There's nothing you can say to me that's going to cause me to abandon or kill my kid, but whatever, move on with our day. So we opted out of the testing. We never did it. We haven't done it for any of our three boys, and we're not going to do it for any of our future kids if we are fortunate enough to have them.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with doing the moral, or there's not anything morally wrong with doing the testing itself. Some of it does have potential risks, which you should understand. But I would say understand that with the testing, many of these medical personnel will tell you or strongly suggest that you should act one way or another. They want to inform the choices, as happened in our case. They will tell you things like, I assume they probably told the Ridgways in this case. 90% chance of terrible things, 99% chance of horror, 99% chance of suffering, whatever. Better eliminate that risk by passing the entire burden of it off to your kid by killing him, to relieve yourself of the burden, because that's a responsible thing to do somehow. I'm guessing that's what happened with the Ridgeway. It seems like they hadn't thought a lot about this stuff ahead of time, and there were certain pieces of information that were given to them that unfortunately clouded their judgment because they had not thought about these things on moral terms in great depth before that moment presented itself. But as you had mentioned, the other thing about the genetic testing, these prenatal tests, if you get them, none of them are certain. You heard Jesse himself say, gender is not, the gender test is not 100% right. Accurate.
Yeah. Oh, it's also all these false positives the doctors told about. All right, let's kill it.
So it's tragic that Jesse understood that the truth that they're not 100% accurate. He understood that right away, and then he acted as though the worst was a certainty. And even if the worst is true, it doesn't justify the behavior right away.
And they waited 3 or 4 months before getting the abortion. And I know it's binary that if it's either abortion is either wrong or it's not, and we both believe it's wrong. But and I'm not basing this on anything scientifically, but it does feel like it gets progressively more wrong the longer you wait.
I would say that's probably not true on principle, but I understand why people think that
to me,
way.
I feel like an abortion after 30 weeks just feels way more evil than after 5 weeks, even though it's the same end result. And this is my a facts versus feelings scenario that I'm on the wrong side of. But I don't know. To me, it just feels even worse that you would even wait, put it off till longer, till it's more developed and all that.
Even if this boy did have Down syndrome, many people with, first of all, his life has value inherently regardless, but many people with Down syndrome are highly functional, at least, relative to their condition. They have jobs, okay? They live with relative independence. And regardless of whatever condition this boy may have had, and I emphasize may because we don't even know, it's entirely possible they killed a perfectly healthy baby boy. Whatever his condition may have been, a parent's job fundamentally is to protect your child no matter their weaknesses. Not say, oh, that one's too weak, the hell with him, and kill him. Another point here, and then I'll wind down because clearly I have a million things to say about this. You had mentioned this. You don't need to make everything public, okay?
Seriously.
Not everything in your life needs to be public or should be public. It doesn't mean that it's fine to abort as long as you keep that private. That's of course not the argument. It's just clearly some things are meant to be experienced within your family because they're moments that are of significance to the family. They don't exist as moments of entertainment for strangers, for clicks or dollars. And those moments would include news about a pregnancy. And I'm not saying that you could never tell people publicly, but it's weird, really bizarre. Like you said, if that is as presented, that the information was newly learned to Jesse and his wife, Ashley, on camera for content. Yeah. That is a very bizarre way to handle that. And if all of this is as presented, they didn't just kill their kid. They made a public show of the killing itself for attention, for money, form of ad revenue, whatever the motivations were. If your family in its nature, fundamentally that way, is a show for other people, I guess I'm not surprised this family appears to be a little bit dysfunctional. Yeah. Your family should be something of very high value for its own sake, not as a form of entertainment for other people. And so to get back to the main point, how you evaluate what you post online, you have to think about what is the purpose for which this thing exists. Your family itself does not exist primarily for online entertainment. So these big moments should not be handled first and foremost for online entertainment. If you wouldn't let a stranger sit in on the moment you and your wife get health information about your child, why would you let people sit in on it virtually on the internet? It's a very bizarre thing to do. And in a little bit well, this actually is totally serious, because it's not just this couple that deserves the criticism, though of course they deserve pretty much all of it. There is a lot of moral confusion created. There's a lot of moral confusion in the reaction to it that created a very interesting tweet I saw from a woman named Allie Voss. She wrote Thursday, the Venn diagram between people who think you should get fired for using the R word and people who think you should be able to euthanize your child if it has Down syndrome is almost a circle.
Bingo. There was so many cases tangential to this where people had just the most weirdly contradictory views. Like someone was going through tweets of people that were condemning them for it, who up until the day prior were like tweeting praising Hitler, and I'm like, all right, at least they draw the line somewhere, I guess. But it is weird how you see all these contradictory stances. Or as I mentioned earlier, the people that are for abortion for any inconvenience whatsoever, but then also drew the line here, or you'd see the reverse of it where they're only okay with it for here. But it brought out every possible stance for and against.
The fundamental idea here is a lot of people who are highly offended by the use of the word retarded are fully supportive of the so-called right to kill a child with a disability before it's born on the basis of that disability, real or feared.
Well,
so just an incredible moral inversion here. Offending people with words is worse than killing them. But
it's like what Louis C.K.'s bit on the word faggot, in that you can use the word retard, but if I'm talking about someone with Down syndrome, they're a developmentally disabled individual. I would never actually use that word to describe. Then it's wrong. It's like with faggot. I can call you a faggot. I can't call a gay guy a faggot. Then it's wrong.
Try. You see what happens.
We'll see. I don't want Graham Platner to do anything to me.
One other thing I'll say is that that I'm someone who's changed my mind on this. As longtime listeners will know, I used to have a generally pro-choice perspective. But one thing I've always been clear on in my own mind, I used to think, well, I would never do it. But is it my business? What other people? Why would I never do it, though? Why have I always been clear in my mind, I would never do this to my own child? Why? On what basis do I say that? According to what moral principles? And it is impossible to consider that question in depth. Why wouldn't I do this without arriving at the conclusion that there is something inherently morally wrong with it? And thus, no, other people shouldn't be doing it either. Yes, justice should be served to those children who are murdered in this way. If you would not do this, why not? And how is it possibly okay for other people to do it? Again, I'm not saying that everything you wouldn't do is a moral wrong that should be criminalized, but I don't see how you can answer that question. I wouldn't do this because, without necessarily arriving at the conclusion that it is in fact murder. There is no way to explain it otherwise. And so you have to grapple with the moral truth that comes with that.
Yeah. When I chuckled 30 seconds ago, it wasn't at you. It was at a comment calling me a homo, just to clarify.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, I guess to close this out, I think
you want to handle the fake thing? We got to do that too.
Here, it's okay. It's not a very strong case. It's just possible. They have a ton of clickbait videos where there's like 5 different videos about his girlfriend breaking up with him over multiple years, and it's the girl I believe is with still. Just a ton of sensationalist content. Now, obviously, this would be a whole different category, but I thought it was at least worth maybe entertaining. I was misled when I actually first sent you this, and that the video of the gender reveal, someone miscaptioned it and claimed it was 20 weeks in which case you would look a bit differently there. I mean, if you're 4 weeks pregnant and not showing, that's plausible. So yeah. I would say it's a single-digit probability, but if this actually is fake, I mean, if we need to boost viewership to the show, I can manufacture some sort of scandal.
I am now in favor of abortion.
Yes,
I'll do the Home Alone face for clicks.
I'll do the soy jack pointing back.
Yeah.
All right, that's how that will manufacture a scandal. Then
now, these are weird
watch the show.
To the point of people who think this is fake. I mean, there's a lot of sensationalized clickbait stuff. My girlfriend is done with me. My mom has a tumor. I had surgery. Now, I think I don't actually think all of this is fake. I think this is a guy who, for whatever reason, whatever has warped his morality, this is a guy who will put anything in his life on the internet for money or fame or clicks or views, and just lacks a moral core. That's my guess at what's. I bet these are all mostly or partially true. It's just opportunistically capitalizing on them, trying to collect those clicks. And this latest one is the ultimate result of that. So the lesson for all of us is moral core first, internet later, and maybe those things don't overlap at all, that to have a moral core means logging off. And in a lot of contexts, it probably does. But think thoroughly about where you stand on the value of life. And I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir because many of you, probably all of you, were quicker to this than I was. But you must properly understand that inherent value of life before this question confronts you in this way, or you do risk getting it catastrophically wrong in the way that this family has gotten it catastrophically wrong. And if there is any sympathy I can have, it's the situation that they were put into with the unfortunate circumstance of probably not thinking it through before that situation was realized. I hope that one day they'll be able to confront the reality of what they did, and only through that could there be any sort of justice for this kid is its own, that's I don't know what state this happened in, but that's probably not going to happen.
No.
The bare minimum is honesty about what just happened here and discouragement from others for taking the same path. So we'll see if that ever happens. But I guess I'll have to wait for another clickbait video title to see if I've changed my mind. Yeah.
Worst decision of my life.
Yeah, we'll see.
They all have the same thumbnails. I guess they work, but no, it's a truly horrible story, horrible people. Everything about it's horrible. And I don't think they'll ever be able to admit to themselves what they did do, because it's just too painful of a realization to admit.
You would be haunted every day. On the one hand, it's like, how could you not come to that conclusion? Think about this. But on the other, to your point, the coming to the conclusion that you murdered your son. I mean, looking at my 3 sons and thinking I supposedly could have done that to them with no moral implications. It's obviously not true. And so to your point, it's strange to think, how could you not reach that conclusion? But the pain associated with reaching that conclusion is so great.
To yourself what you did, yeah.
That those heels do dig in deep, man.
Even like when I say something retarded, I even make excuses. I'm like, I didn't have coffee this morning. It's going to happen, So
I'm so
something
highly
of,
regarded.
Something of that gravity.
Yeah.
It's, it's tough.
Okay, I'm like an hour late to Hoax Hate. You want a speed run on this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
It's a hoax.
And now,
all right,
nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America. Hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
All right, you ready for this one? Boo!
Oh, God. I hate to say it, it should have been aborted.
Okay, fine. My mind has changed. In Laramie, Wyoming, there's a man pretending to be a woman calling himself Rihanna Kelver. And he has previously been challenging a Wyoming state law that requires people to use the bathroom of their biological sex. What did he do? He protested by going into the women's bathroom at the Wyoming State Capitol building, and they actually didn't give a crap. They didn't arrest him. They didn't charge him. They didn't sue him. So he got away with it. Well, Rihanna Kelver is a bartender at the Crow Bar and Grill in Laramie, Wyoming. Not technically a gay bar, according to this story, but a bar known to have left-wing politics. The bar flies gay pride and Black Lives Matter flags, among other gestures. Well, after a violent confrontation outside the bar, Rihanna Kelver is now charged with assault with a deadly weapon after pointing a gun at a group of hecklers, guys on the street outside the bar in September. Now, This is the story according to court records in this case. Around 10 p.m. on Saturday, September 13th, a man identified in court documents as SD was walking across the street from the bar with 2 other men. Kelver, this tranny bartender, was standing outside of the bar at which he works. SD shouted something at the bar or Kelver from across the street. According to Kelver, SD shouted, "Fuck the crowbar, that fag bar should close down."
Hell yes!
Okay. According to SD, there were no slurs used at all. The affidavit says that SD told police that he yelled, "Fuck the crowbar," because he likes the Buckhorn Bar better, another bar in town. No mention of the reasons why the Buckhorn Bar is better. But according to Kelver, the tranny bartender here, the tranny then yelled back. So you got guy heckling from across the street. The tranny then yells back. And SD across the street yelled, "You heard me, you fucking faggot. What are you going to do about it, faggot? I'll fuck you up." Okay, that's what Kelver says now, though that's not in court documentation. It's not in the police report. So that's a problem. And then the police report, according to both SD and Kelver. So Kelver is now saying that there were all these slurs uttered, didn't tell that to police at the time. Kelver then approached the men, this group of guys who had been shouting, According to his own description, they met in the crosswalk. SD pushed Kelver to the ground, and Kelver drew a .380 handgun from his satchel and pointed it. Did not fire. Now, there is surveillance video of the event, though not publicly available, as I understand. There's no audio in this surveillance video, but according to police, that's what it can be seen on the video, is Kelver approaches these men who are in the crosswalk, leaving the bar, approaching them. There's some kind of verbal confrontation. This guy shoves Kelver to the ground. Kelver responds by taking a gun out of his satchel and pointing it at these guys. Now, Kelver says he never intended to shoot the gun. He never had his finger on the trigger, he says. That is irrelevant in the context of the charge here, though. The other guy doesn't know if you have a round chambered or not. He doesn't know if your finger is on the trigger or not. He just sees a barrel pointed at his face, and that's a problem. And now, as far as why he chambered around, Kelver says he just wanted the guys to hear him chamber around, to get them away from him. Okay, the problem is he approached them, though. They didn't approach him, and that's going to be a legal problem for Kelver. Another legal problem for Kelver is he initially told police that he pulled a knife, not a gun, and he has a whole bunch of explanations for why that was the case. You know, he's an oppressed tranny with PTSD and gets forgetful and all this. So he lied to police. Now, of course, in Wyoming, you can stand your ground. There is no duty to retreat. The problem is that Kelver advanced. He approached the other guys. He wasn't standing ground. He was advancing. He was claiming ground. So it's going to be very difficult for this self-defense case for this guy. Never mind the fact that there's zero evidence it was done with anti-transgender motivation as alleged. But that's what's going on in Laramie. You have any thoughts about that one?
Never going to Laramie now.
Laramie is also is also famous as the site of the original hoax hate crime, the Matthew Shepard case, which was in fact a murder, but it was not a hate crime. I
didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was a hoax until like the past 5 or so years. It's one of those things. Come out in recent years, it's one of those things you hear about once a year, and you go, "Oh, it's so horrible," and then, yeah, it turns out it was not that at all. I'm for gun control with trannies in that if you're gonna like, and the whole did you quote him as saying he had PTSD, or were you editorializing?
No, I think he legitimately said that.
It's bizarre that Kelver, too is not disqualifying.
Kelver said her mental health conditions played a part in her confusion about lying about the knife. They're using she, not me. Yeah. This guy's diagnosed with bipolar, ADHD, and manages complex PTSD.
Yeah. Like, listen, I'm obviously pro-gun, but if you have that many mental illnesses, like, it is a risk-reward equation of what is the likelihood you use it in self-defense versus the likelihood you use it to kill someone else or yourself. And when we know what the transgender suicide rate is, it's for their own good, largely. I mean,
well, you got to remember that they get attacked and made to look like they have suicide attempts so frequently.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I will say, though, I mean, the one flaw, though, in restricting gun ownership based on mental illness is in America, we do have a very, very wide definition of what mental illness is. And in my home state of New Jersey, if you apply for a gun and say you have anxiety, they will deny you for that. So obviously that can be abused, but I think if you have the chop your dick off mental illness, we as a society go, okay, no gun.
All right. In Minneapolis, I got a story out of Minneapolis as well. A gay Latino barber went missing, and his body was discovered stabbed to death on the train tracks. And the activists called for investigation on suspicion of a hate crime. And so police did investigate, and they found the guy who had been talking to him most recently through phone records. And this guy is now arrested and charged with the killing. It turns out it was not a hateful, anti-gay right-winger. It was another Latino gay guy, at least I believe. If you believe him, a very not gay Latino guy. Because this killing was not, either way, this was not an anti-gay thing. It was not anti-Hispanic or anti-gay. According to the guy who committed the killing, it was because of unwanted gay sexual advances.
According to charging documents, officers located Gabe's phone in a densely wooded area near the train tracks and discovered that Ramos Castro had sent Gabe a pin location on WhatsApp on May 24th, near where Gabe was killed. The charges say cell phone records show the two called each other 4 times on the 24th, including around 7 p.m., just before a camera captured 2 men walking on the tracks. After initially denying meeting Gabe on May 24th, charging documents say Ramos Castro confessed to investigators that he stabbed Gabe to death after he says Gabe made unwanted sexual advances towards him.
I want some butts! Specifically, he says that this is the killer, Omar Castro, and this is the guy who was killed, Gabe Perez. Castro, the killer, says that Perez repeatedly made sexual advances, grabbing his arm and testicles, despite repeated objections. Okay, and I'm sure this guy is the killer. I'm sure that's correct. But I don't buy that this was because of unwanted sexual advances. In fact, I think these were very wanted sexual advances that later became a liability. Why would there be sexual advances on the train tracks? The train tracks are the intended murder site. The more likely explanation is these guys had some kind of ongoing gay relationship, and there was a risk of that getting out. And so Gabe, the gay barber, had to pay. He had to die. Another factor, not just like the circumstances of the train tracks not making any sense, like who goes to the train tracks to grab a nut? That's not what happened. All right, the nut grabbing happened earlier, and the train tracks, that was, it was like the train station in Yellowstone. That's what happened here. Gabe, the guy who was murdered, was 44. His killer, Omar Castro, 24.
Who is his gay homosexual killer?
Yes.
Damn.
And very common with the gays. Older guy, younger guy. I'm supposed to believe that a 24-year-old and a 44-year-old went on some kind of late night walk, just hanging out on the train tracks on a purely platonic, friendly basis, when one of them made it weird and gay by repeatedly grabbing nuts, and so the other had to kill him because of all the nut grabbing. That is not how it happened.
As you do.
Yeah, well, I've
never been in the situation, by the way. Yeah.
No, I can't say I've experienced this, so it's a very odd one. Oh, also of note, the killer, Castro, implicitly does not speak English. Police needed a translator to talk to him. So there's a decent shot that he's an illegal immigrant, but Minnesota reporting is never going to tell you that. He's just a St. Paul resident, a St. Paul man. That's all he is.
Well, you got to speak some English to get citizenship. I mean, it's not a lot at all, but it is something. So he's probably here legally.
All right, lastly, I'm going to be extremely quick, but this is worth noting for people who are following the case. The DOJ released a superseding indictment in the Southern Poverty Law Center case, as in an amended indictment with more details. Recall in April, the DOJ charged the SPLC with fraud because, according to the DOJ, they were taking donor money that was meant to fight racism, but they were actually funding the racism, promoting the racism, paying members of the KKK and Nazi organizations and all this. The SPLC said, we're just paying informants like law enforcement does. We're just gathering information. We're not actually promoting it or creating the hate that we're fighting. Well, the superseding indictment does some damage to that defense if the allegations are true. Among just a few of the highlights here, they, according to the DOJ, paid field sources to attend extremist rallies, to host rallies, to grow existing chapters, to create new chapters, to recruit new members, to donate to extremist leaders, to purchase cross-burning material, to create racist propaganda, and to pay living expenses. We have more details on the fake businesses that the SPLC used to launder money, which the SPLC says was to protect their sources. But the SPLC, according to one of these accusations, paid a Nazi guy or a KKK guy or both. He wanted to leave the movement. They paid him a salary to stay. And they're accused of doing this for multiple people. Hey, man, I think you've convinced me to leave all this hate. I want to reform my life. No. Please accept this bribe to remain a member. There are all sorts of other allegations in here about paying one of the Charlottesville organizers, like literally supervising his racist posts, arranging for his transportation to the rally. These are not things that are just like getting information. These are funding participation in these events.
I just love that people were able to submit reimbursement requests for cross-burning.
Of course. They probably had a whole system. Southern Poverty Law Center has pleaded not guilty. Trial tentatively scheduled for October 5th. All right, that's a lot of show. So let's get to some super chat and we'll call it a night. Let me I have to refresh on YouTube. on Rumble, I'm going to hop over there since I got that ready to go. The Great Negro. This couple is so infuriating. They had zero need to put their business online. Damn the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah.
If staged or real, still should have made this a spectacle. Or shouldn't have made this a spectacle.
Correct.
Yeah. And obviously, it's worse if it's real. All right. It involves the murder of an innocent baby if it's real. But man, isn't faking it pretty damn bad? If this is proven to be a fake, like...
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very bad. But as I said earlier, it gives us a ton of new marketing ideas for the show. So
you're hired as a consultant, Jesse. You got Newbie. He's up next.
Newbie of Death. Is the capital of Wyoming pronounced Laramie or Laramie?
It's Laramie. It's neither.
Laramie.
Is this a joke or a sincere question?
It was probably sincere, but me mispronouncing the correct pronunciation.
Laramie is a county in Colorado, though.
Yeah.
But Laramie, Wyoming is Laramie, Wyoming. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Also,
Thank
to reply probably to a comment that's not a super chat, someone asked when we're going to talk about the Karmelo Anthony case. It's at the beginning of the episode. If you,
it's probably like 30 minutes in. Yeah,
we're in there. Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
Right, off to YouTube.
Let's see. We left off with Tim.
Yep.
No, wait. Yeah, Andrew Jackman. So Tim is the first one we need to read.
Yep. There were so many lefties who tried destroying people's lives because making the OK symbol is a clear dog whistle to Nazis. But a dude who actually got a Nazi tattoo, who knows what that could mean? Effing piece of S-word Democrats. I don't want to
vulgarity.
I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube.
Yeah.
Can I say SHIT on YouTube?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Oh, shit, okay. I feel like I probably said the F word on this show. I don't know why I'm censoring myself. Okay, I'll just read it. The last statement is fucking piece of shit Democrats.
Ooh, got him.
Yeah,
I can't believe they're not principled on their Nazi opposition, man. What?
It's tough.
You think you know people. You think you
it's
can
almost
trust
like
them.
they believe nothing.
Thank you, Tim. Taker 610. The only thing better in Seattle right now is the Seahawks are Super Bowl champions and the Sonics are coming back. Is that confirmed on the Sonics? That's kind of interesting. I hadn't heard that. Yeah, the Seahawks are champions after what? Taking Sam Darnold from the Vikings because the Vikings are the only team stupid enough to go 14-3 and let their quarterback walk. So congratulations to the Seahawks. And now the Vikings are doing what? Hiring the Seahawks general manager. But it doesn't work. You can't just bring people to Minnesota and expect them to win. All right, everybody goes to Minnesota to lose, but congratulations to... I am glad to see Sam Darnold leave Minnesota and go win a Super Bowl because he deserves it. Good for him.
I don't know what any of that means, but great analysis as usual. I need a soundboard to react to like sports stuff. A form of sound words. I'm giving an extra $10 to Matt Palumbo's excellent statement. I'm quoting directly. Where I said, you just buried your son. Chef's kiss, well said. I could not agree more.
His statement, I fear I'd have to bury my son one day, is just...
It was like so unself-aware.
It's like, you can't be serious, man.
Yeah. It was like... Did you ever see when, I think it was CNN reporting on the Boston Marathon bombing, and they were at the aftermath, and it's like all cleared out, and a reporter goes, it's like a bomb, no one's here, it's like a bomb went off.
Boy. And the thing
it reminded me of that for some reason.
For all the fear that a father does have of burying his son, of course that's an awful pain that no father should ever have to experience. You know what a worse pain is, though? Knowing that you made the intentional decision to kill your son. If I ever have the experience of losing a son one day, it will be awful. I don't know. You never get over that, okay? It changes your life forever. But at least you know that you did what you could for your son, regardless of the circumstances of that death. Even if it's an accident or whatever, like you think maybe I could have done this or I could have saved him this way. When you know that you made the decision to kill him, that's the thing you actually can't live with. I don't know how you expect to live with yourself. Oh, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I buried my son. But you did, and your fear of burying your son on accidental terms or natural terms is actually misguided relative to what you chose as the supposed solution. So, anyway.
Unrelated, we got a correction. Cheyenne is the capital city of Wyoming. We were saying the county, not the city. Not like it really matters.
Did I say it was the capital? I know.
No, a newbie of death did in the comment, and then someone corrected it.
Not
trying to call out newbie,
Yeah.
just so I looked.
Sorry, yeah, it's.
But I didn't
you're right.
correct it, so I looked dumb. So now
You
I
are fake
thought I did.
news. Very fake.
That's one I should have caught. The super chat did say capital of Wyoming, pronounced Laramie or Laramie. You're right. Laramie's not the capital. I was focused on the pronunciation. I should have caught the capital of Cheyenne as the Western representative of this show.
It's blame to go around.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting the record.
Well, thanks to the YouTube commenters. But Taker610, Platner now claims that he was born with the Nazi tattoo, claiming his parents could see it on the ultrasound, but that did not deter them. They said it would be ihr Kampf, their struggle. Nice. I mean, you got to give them credit for not aborting.
So, yeah. They are the worst. They are total trashy asses.
I like his parents.
Nathan Harris, Mordell. On the abortion topic, I sure hope their future kids never find the public discussion of these videos of their parents. Also, do they think their kids will be immune from getting disabled after birth? That's true. You never know what sort of conditions you can acquire through whatever means later in life. And that is an unfortunate... You're right that it's not just a poor reflection on your family as you and your wife or you as parents. You don't put material on the internet like that for your kids to find later. Yeah. It's not... it's awful. It's awful to do to those future children if they are lucky enough to have them and if they actually honor the value of those lives this time when they come around.
All right, producer Tim, and I'm sorry in advance to our guests for me reading this. I was really blown away that you guys were somehow able to book a pair of talking eyebrows for an interview. Then I moved a bit further back from my laptop, and at that point realized, holy shit, there's actually a face attached to those eyebrows. They were stupendous eyebrows.
Well, first of all, for mocking one of our coveted guests.
He was a very, very good guest.
Tim, thank you.
You're not really fired, Tim, don't worry.
We'll see about that. There's a process.
I'm gonna vote against firing.
Tim also says, if you don't like a thing, abortion, don't do that thing, is a stupid point.
Correct.
You can think that something shouldn't be done regardless of whether it affects you directly. For example, you think rape is bad, just don't rape is stupid. Well, and it's not a matter of personal preference like ice cream or something. Oh, you don't like chocolate ice cream? Don't eat a chocolate ice cream cone. No, there's a moral truth that we have to acknowledge here. It's not a matter of whether I like it. It's not a matter of whether I approve of it or not. It's a matter of there being a fundamental moral truth against that thing, the moral truth that human life has inherent God-given value. To deny that is to commit a crime. It is to break that moral truth, and it has to be brought to justice. So when people reduce it to just a matter of personal preference, again, that's getting the question wrong. Where do you think morality comes from? You think all of morality is just personal preference, like we decided? I don't know. Murder seems like it kind of sucks. So we probably shouldn't do that. A majority vote says so. Is that what we just decided that it's wrong, or is there something inherently true about its wrongness, something that pre-existed us, something that came from, dare I say, God, the moral author of the universe, about that rule?
Murder
That's what you have
does
to be
suck.
clear on.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, they don't even abide by their own rhetoric, and that a liberal will be like, yeah, if you don't like abortion, don't get an abortion. If you don't like gay marriage, don't get married. If you don't like guns, ban every single one of them immediately. It's like, it's very selective in when they're gonna use that logic.
If you don't like it, what happened to why aren't AR-15s enjoying protection under that reasoning? Okay, I think we're all set.
I think
give a quick
one last
refresh. Yeah, we are good. Anything else before we're out of here?
Buy my book, yada yada, whatever.
I always promote it. You don't have to double down.
No one's. It's a failed project.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. No, it's highly regarded.
Sure.
Don't be so hard on yourself. Thanks to our live chatters and super chatters for making the live show a success. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to our guest, Jason Rantz, and his delightful eyebrows, no matter what Tim says. Find Jason at seattlered.com. Follow him on X at Jason Rantz, linked in the description. Thanks to the highly regarded Matt Palumbo for his efforts. Find his X account and his coveted latest book on Alex Soros, The Heir, linked to the description.
Matt.
Thanks to producer Tim for his assistance, even when he rips our guests. Find everything show-related at mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay if you prefer brevity. Join the MC Club. Keep the duct tape rolling. I'm live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Have a great night and a great week. Until then.